you to relatively lead this.
Table.
Sunday the 19th.
Make sure this is working. Check. Hello. Great. And did I get your name? Sorry.
You did not ask yet.
Oh, what's your name?
Kyle.
First name Kyle. Gotcha.
Yeah.
My name is Reid. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Reid.
Hi. Yeah. So you found a street epistemology booth. There's a bunch of people who do this around the country, around the world, and we're really into critical thinking and skepticism and helping people think through their beliefs. Not so much about what people believe, but why and how they can check if their reasons are good reasons or not.
Sure.
So, yeah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
You just mentioned something that got me thinking. You said if their reasons are good reasons, how do you define whether or not something is a good reason?
Yeah, I like to keep it open for discussion. I have my own criteria, very broad criteria, but depending on the claim, it can get more specific. I can go into that more if you want.
Yeah, please. See, I think that there's logical reasons for the way people behave and there are emotional reasons for the way people behave. And in this format, you may be able to very articulately and eloquently break down the logical rationale behind someone's behavior. But the emotional rationale might be a little bit harder to get at. I mean, you don't know my full story. If I were to make a claim that were, as to my behavior, that was a little bit more emotionally grounded, it may be challenging for you or any other stranger to break that down effectively.
It is hard, and sometimes we don't stay at like the facts, the epistemology level. Sometimes it goes down to the emotional level or identity level, and we can have very profound conversations about those we call psychosocial motivations. So that could be a reason someone could be at a certain level of confidence about a claim or something. Those more emotional type of reasons, yeah.
Got it. Is this your confidence meter?
That is a confidence meter.
I like that.
Yeah.
What else am I looking at here?
It can get complicated. Sometimes it's good to like have some reasons on the table, on the whiteboard, and then we can weigh each reason, give each reason a color. Is it like 5 out of 5 blocks of a strength of a reason?
Yeah.
How many of those on one side or the other? And if, depending on which way we're leaning, does that match the weight of our reasons? Is there a discrepancy? Why is that there discrepancy there? Is there something missing that we're not talking about that is keeping you
This is great.
at a certain level of confidence?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people, decisions in life are oftentimes non-binary. You randomly come across a fork in the road where it's a clear decision to go one way or another. There are multiple different avenues. And I think maybe it's in the book The Alchemist, where they're talking about the fig tree and how there's someone laying up and looking at the fig tree, and each fig represents all the different lives that they can lead if they went and tried that one fruit or went down that one path. I may be completely misinterpreting the meaning of that story, but that inundation of choice, I think, kind of paralyzes some people. And this format of just talking with somebody who I imagine is unbiased and is hypercritical and thoughtful may enable people to not be paralyzed by all the choices that they have ahead of them. So I commend you for doing this.
Right, yeah. Choices can be hard. It can be very complex, what goes into them. And yeah, and another part of street epistemology is like I'm in the role of like a questioner. So I'm trying to mitigate my own bias by not giving my perspective unless people ask. Then ideally the roles can be reversed afterwards. We can just keep going back and forth, but it takes a little bit to learn more about how to do street epistemology to reverse the roles, or I can just have a regular conversation.
Sure.
But
how has the strengths of your relationships evolved ever since you started practicing this?
they've been less contentious, I guess. I see people more as just human beings. They're not identified with their beliefs.
Right.
They are just potentially mistaken. If I disagree with them, it lessens conflict that way.
Oh, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're also teaching yourself to be more open-minded.
Exactly.
Which is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool how I could hear all the sounds around us.
I know, it's weird. I have to do some post-processing to get it down a bit, but
probably
works out okay. All right, so what would you like to do here? Would you want to have a claim that you think is true questioned and explored?
Are you looking for more of like
epistemology?
an absolutism claim?
It depends on your confidence. If you are 100%, the conversation usually goes in a different path than if you're like less than 100% and you're making what's called a deductive versus non-deductive argument.
Okay. I'll do one. I'll do one. And I'll provide some context even though it might bias you in the process.
Sure.
So I was raised by wow, that background noise is very challenging.
Yeah, sorry.
No, there's nothing you can do about it, but I'll just try and maintain focus.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised by someone who was born and raised in Israel and moved here when they were in their mid-20s, late 20s, and somebody else who was born and raised in the United States. And both of them were of the Jewish faith. I don't think either of them had that strong of an attachment to the religion, but in Israel, the religion is strongly intertwined with the cultural identity. And growing up, I did all the things that they asked/made me do, which is go to Hebrew school and take part in the cultural identity. And as I grew up, I found myself at a pretty early age emotionally separating from religion. I like to think of myself as a logical thinker, and maybe you could stress test that during today's conversation, but I just didn't see a logical reason to continue having faith. And I made it very clear to my parents, basically when I was 14 or 15, that I just didn't see the point in religion. And bless their soul, they have allowed me to kind of go down my own path and my own journey, and they've been really good listeners and supportive, and they don't want to force me into living my life in a way that I just don't want to live. And at this stage in my life, I feel like my ideas have become a little bit more extreme than I had originally intended, where I break down, for me at least, and it may be different for different religions, but seeing as Judaism is such a small component of the world population, I think that it's remarkably important to retain some sort of cultural identity attached to a religion, but separate the religious aspects from it all to the extent possible. So I'm now at a point where when I say I'm Jewish, and I'm using air quotes, you have cameras. when I say I'm Jewish, it's that I align myself culturally to it, but I absolutely shun the religious aspects. And I wonder if that is an idea that is smart to have, a lifestyle that is smart to have in perpetuity, or if this is just kind of like a stepping stone phase in my religious beliefs that they'll evolve at some point in time. Let's say a life event happens, or I grow up, I become more mature, and I am not viewing religion the same way. So maybe you could help me with my own path in enlightenment and religious belief and help me kind of fast forward through this stage.
Yeah, maybe one thing this is about is like trying to get away from extremism, and I'm hearing maybe some religions are extreme, and if someone is identifying with the religion, both with the religion or with the religion and culturally, if they're both together that way, that might be more extreme. But if you just identify with it culturally, that's less extreme, and there's just a question of like, should that continue where you remain just culturally identified? Is that fine? Or should there be less of a cultural identity at all? Should there be just get away from it completely?
Yeah, I think I took a few different ideas and kind of bundled them together, and you're right, maybe we should separate them. So my more extreme belief is that I see no reason to be religious at this stage in human history.
And what do you mean by that, to be religious?
I think the original intent for a religion was to kind of create a set of expected rules and behaviors in a society so that society can function correctly. We're a very tribal people, and we need people to get along in order to remain effective as a tribe. And religion brought people together under a shared belief and shared fears, and kind of provided the baseline rules of society. As we have evolved, as society has progressed, I think the rule of law has supplanted religion in terms of developing the expectations for humans. And at this point, I think the core purpose of religion is no longer as relevant. And of course, there are other aspects of religion that we can go into, but that is, in my mind, that's the core reason for why religion originally existed. And I see I think that has deteriorated over time.
Okay, now I'm hearing a question like, is our modern set of rules, like the rule of law, sufficient to keep civilization stable or in good status in terms of social behavior or just ethical behavior?
Well, I think the rule of law is constantly evolving as we progress. Like, new technology and new modern day problems are forcing the rule of law to evolve. Like, we're in a great situation right here. Not great, we're in a terrible situation with the virus, but the virus has provided a premier example of how the rule of law needs to adjust in order to account for the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if the rule of law will ever be sufficient, because it should be a living and breathing thing.
Okay.
Whereas by contrast, religion isn't, actually. That's funny.
It's more stuck in its ways.
Yeah, I believe so. You know, we're not going to say that Moses wrote something else in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the interpretations evolve over time, but I think of religion, the interpretations of religion evolve over time, but the text itself remains the same.
Mm-hmm. Are there rules you follow that are not religious and not a law?
Hard for me to answer that, because I don't know. I haven't memorized every single religious text. There are some things I may do that lie outside of it or inside of it. I just am not aware. At this point, the way I conduct myself is kind of guided by what I just think and feel is right. And I believe that my thoughts about what are right are more so grounded in general experience and law, more so than religious expectations.
Okay. So your current method of judging whether a rule that you come across, whether it be religious or in law or maybe something else, is how you think and feel?
Yeah.
Your personal experience?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say so.
Any particular example we can go through and talk about?
Yeah,
What
sure.
is a rule that you think is good to follow that might be on the edge between law and religion or some other thing?
I think a glaring example right now was with respect to the choice as to whether or not to get vaccinated.
Okay.
There is no law stating that you have to get vaccinated. Where's that coming from? There is no law stating that you have to get vaccinated. I also don't believe that there is anything in religious texts saying anything about vaccination.
Nothing about vaccination.
I would highly doubt that. But I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do. And maybe my belief as to whether or not it's the right thing to do is grounded in some sort of religious ideology with respect to how to treat thy neighbors. Maybe it's just grounded in my experience with people, not wanting to harm others. Harm. Yes.
Okay. That's a potential moral principle to reduce. It's good to reduce harm.
Yeah.
That's the principle we might be using.
Yeah. If you have the choice to, if you could do something that has a very little effect on you, but has the potential great effect on a broader society, why not do it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I guess where people will question me here, depending on their beliefs.
Want some water? Sure. Go ahead. I forgot to put it out. I'll put it out later.
Yeah. I think where people will question me here is whether or not getting vaccinated truly does harm you. But that's just a whole other rabbit hole that I don't think we need to go down.
Is harm the only value to consider, or are there other values to consider in this equation of the question? Is the right thing to do to get vaccinated? Is harm at the top of that hierarchy of values to consider, or are there other values?
Well, let's... that's two questions right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe let's start with, let's widen the pie. What else is there aside from harm?
In terms of?
The question as to whether or not to get vaccinated. There's the harm to others. Mm-hmm. Help me brainstorm here.
I follow a model of moral foundations theory, where I like to get my category of values.
Okay.
Because they're I think that's pretty interesting in terms of how they were categorized and the research behind that. So it's like harm and care go together. Let me bring up my banners of get this list here. Care and harm go together. Sanctity and purity go together. And degradation, purity / degradation. It's there's a spectrum. The more pure you are, the less degraded you are. And then there's fairness, cheating. More fair is good. Less cheating is good. Mm-hmm. Loyalty, betrayal. Those go together. Authority and subversion go together.
Oh.
And liberty and oppression go together.
Wow.
So there's
there are a lot of ways that you could apply that framework to this question.
Yeah, there's 12, and there's 6 pairs, I would say.
Okay. And they're all along a spectrum?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And I heard harm, so it's on the spectrum of care to harm.
Well, it's hard for me to keep track of all 12 and know where the hierarchy is.
Yeah.
But I do think liberty comes into play there. Also, this conversation is kind of evolving away from the original intent, which is to kind of help address whether or not my ideas surrounding my religious identity are appropriate now and in the future.
Yeah, we went on a rabbit hole.
We did.
So let's go back.
Pull back up.
So what is the question we should be talking about?
I think the question, that's a cute dog. I think the question we should be...
Just making sure this doesn't fall. I've had it fall and break, so.
Gotcha. I think the question we should be talking about is whether it's okay for me to mentally separate religion into its cultural aspects and its religious aspects, and consider myself Jewish if I just align with and frankly respect the cultural aspects of it, while simultaneously shunning the traditionally observant religious aspects of it. Mm-hmm. Is it possible for me to consider myself Jewish if I just do one and not the other?
Yeah. We can talk about you individually if a question should be considered for you, or should we universalize it?
Let's universalize it.
It could be should all religious people just be culturally religious?
Ooh, I like that one better. Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can write that down as our discussion question. Should everyone be culturally religious? Even people who are not religious at all, should they go into a cultural religion?
No. I don't want to force a cultural identity upon people.
Or be encouraged to.
Yes. Let's make it this. For anybody who considers themselves religious, so we're therefore cutting out the subsection of the population that doesn't consider themselves religious. For anybody who does, would it be better for society if they only identified with their faith's culture and not the religious observance, traditionally religious / observant components of it?
Yeah, so it's maybe this is fair. Should all religious people just be culturally religious?
Yeah, perfect.
Is that fair?
Now that we have our question, I'm going to grab a water.
Sure.
So, quick break.
I think there's big bottles at the bottom there.
Perfect. We talked in a few circles there, but I'm glad we narrowed down onto a point. We're back.
Nice. Great. Now, before we get into reasons potentially,
Okay.
let's start out with the current level of confidence. You don't have to know mine unless you ask. But
I don't want to know yours, because then I'm going to get combative.
yeah. And then feel free to update your confidence as we talk, or
Sure.
I'll recheck at the end and see if it's changed.
Yeah.
Just for science. And all right, so if all the way to
LOL
the right,
that you bring up science in a conversation about religion. That's nice.
you betray my bias. If all the way to the right is absolutely yes. All religious people should be culturally religious, or to the left, absolutely no, or middle, not sure, could be either way.
I'm squeamish right now. You know why I'm squeamish?
Why are you squeamish?
Neil, correct?
Reid.
Reid. Fuck.
It's fine.
Can I curse on this?
Sure.
Okay. Reid, the issue as to why I'm squeamish is because the answer is it depends. That's what we're gonna come down to. You know, we can't just categorize. We have the word all right here. We can't do that. There's no possible way that we can derive some sort of rule of behavior for all people right here. These two kids in a park. There's no way we can do that. Because it absolutely depends on the context of who people are, where they live, what they have access to, what their future possibilities are, their surrounding resources and structures that enable them to go about their life.
All right.
It's going to differ for everybody.
So what's your confidence for all in that claim, and your confidence for most? All right, if that's all.
Yeah.
If it was changed to most, where would it be?
How would I know what most is? I've seen so little of the world. All right, let's go here. Just for the sake of conversation. Most.
There. And I'll revise this.
All right.
Because now we're talking about that. Okay.
Now the woman was just looking out at the view, and everybody was like, they're trying to figure out, are you okay?
So, you know, it all depends on how we're...
Howdy.
Oh, hi, Erik. What's up? How's it going? This is my friend Erik.
Hi, friend Erik.
This is Kyle.
Doing well.
We're having a conversation about stuff. Feel free to hang out. I got headphones over there. It should be connected. He's just another street epistemologist enthusiast.
Great.
So great. Can you hear me? Turn on to the left side. Should be turned on.
Let's see. Right here.
Yeah, it might have just reset. Try now.
Yeah.
Better. There we go. Great.
Excellent.
You can listen in. All right, now, yeah.
Slap down, ready to pair.
Ready to pair. I might need to turn this on again. It might take a second to connect. Testing.
Connected.
Connected. There we go.
There we go. Got it.
Great. Perfect. And if you're like on a time limit, feel free to set a time.
I'm not.
You're cool.
I'm not.
All right. Yeah. So it's funny how confidence can change depending on how we're
Defining
forming
the
question.
target market.
Yeah. All right. So that's your level of confidence now.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So now, with street epistemology, we like to ask people for their main reason or main reasons, and I want to make sure they're actual, real reasons that influence your confidence. So, what would be? It's hard to do that, but at least there's ways to kind of get at that.
Sure.
All right. So, what would be
My reasons why
reasons?
most people should be culturally religious. All right, let's break this down because there are push and pull factors here, and there are two components to this. Because component number one is people should identify more with a culture and less with a religion. So I'm making an argument that culture is important and religion is not.
Culture is important.
And religion is not. I'm also, if we're really digging into this, which I guess is the point of this conversation, I'm also making the point that the two don't influence one another, that we can effectively separate culture from religion. And that's where I think my argument is weakest.
Religion does not influence culture, or culture does not influence religion.
I think both. Yeah, it's a two-way street.
Okay. These are just some premises to put into an argument at some point.
Sure.
Culture does not influence religion. Culture is important. Religion is not important.
Yeah. And that right there is two separate arguments.
Yeah, so if we had a reason that began with the phrase religious people, how would we end that phrase to make it a reason?
Well, I don't want to target religious people in general. I'd
It's
rather just talk
in
about religion.
That's in the question.
Ah.
Yeah.
I might need to rewrite the question.
Okay, we can change it. Religious people. I don't want to.
What if we say, is there a role for religion in addition to culture? I don't like that either. Gosh, defining the question here is really challenging. That has been the hard part of this conversation thus far.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to define it, or can we just start going? You want to define it?
I do want to focus on a question.
Okay.
A specific question.
Sure.
That helps to narrow that down.
Okay. All right. What if we rephrased it to, is there a role for religion in modern day society?
Okay.
So I think it's not exactly what we originally set out to talk about, but it's tangential enough.
Sure.
And in the argument, and it's not an argument, in the discussion, we can bring up cultural aspects if we wanted to. But I feel like that's a more targeted question that we can always circle back to.
Okay. Is there a role for religion in modern day society?
Yeah.
That's better.
Just a quick sidebar here. Do you ever just like set up your audio equipment and sit in the park? Because this is so peaceful. The fact that I could hear everything.
Yeah, that is.
This is really great.
I do have to like wait, in between people, and it's very peaceful.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Anyway, is there a role for religion in modern day society?
So then all the way to the right is absolutely yes. All the way to the left is no.
Oh, in my confidence?
Yeah.
Oh, my answer is hard no, and I'm very confident.
That's towards
in
yes.
that. I'm confident. Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it.
Okay.
Extreme confidence, not at all confident.
Yeah.
Got it. So I'm there.
The hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
There. Gotcha. Now let's think of some reasons. All right. What pops in your mind right away?
I think God, I'm so biased. I think that if you are well educated, there's no need for religion.
Okay.
Why am I whispering? Because it's extreme. I think if you're well educated, there's no need for religion.
If you're well educated,
If you're well educated, if you have a respect for law and just a general empathy for others, and I understand the irony in me saying, or me indicating that I have empathy for others after making such a bold claim about religious people, but I think that if you are well educated, you have empathy for others, and you respect the rule of law, then, and maybe like a fourth characteristic that I just haven't thought of yet, then there's really no need for religion.
What I'm hearing you say is religion is not needed?
No, I don't think so.
That would be, a reason to be at that confidence, okay? Is that the right way to do this? Is that, yeah, it's fine. Okay, great. Maybe we can question that. The assumption with that is that modern day society should just have stuff that it needs.
Well, I think that I want to address that in 1 second. But first, I also want to just make the claim that I think over the last 300 years, religion has done more harm than good. And we are anchored to it. We feel an obligation to remain religious because that is what our parents and our grandparents did. But the honest truth is I think it holds us back. And education and a respect for science and technology and innovation and engineering and math and everything related to education will kind of hopefully break us from the shackles of religion. So that is my extremist belief. That said, what was I gonna bring up? Religion's not needed in modern society. It's to harm the good.
Is it fair to say religion is harmful as a reason?
I think religion is harmful.
Okay.
Maybe not religion itself, but what it makes people do. And just like, great example, very topical. If we just look at Texas right now, pretty classic for an LA kid to be shitting on Texas, but if we look at Texas with their abortion laws that recently came out that are so just counterintuitive to me. And I feel like the rationale is definitely rooted in some sort of religious ideology, but if people had empathy for others, then they would allow women to make their own choices.
Yeah, the reason for this reason is the abortion laws.
Well, that's an outcome of that.
Yeah. Great.
So I think religion is harmful. I think it's not needed.
Okay.
And I think it is used as a distraction from logic. So, in my mind, it is logical to allow women to have abortions. If you take a look at states where abortion access is not hindered in any way, you have a lower rate of teen pregnancy. And then obviously you don't want teens to get pregnant because it's terrible for the economy and for their lives and for the future of their children and their own life. But like, if you take a look at, I would say there's a high degree of correlation between people who don't want to get vaccinated and religious fanaticism. And people unfortunately use religion or their interpretation of religion as an excuse to ignore what scientifically, medically makes sense. And sometimes economically makes sense. So I think in that sense it is harmful, and it kind of it shackles us to archaic beliefs that, in my opinion, have no role in modern day and future society.
Okay. So part of that is what I'm hearing is religion is illogical. You said something about logic.
I wouldn't say I don't want to say it's illogical, though it may be. I want to say that it shackles us to...
religion is oppressive?
Oppressive, yes. But once again, that's not my point. I take guilt for that because I'm not effectively communicating. I'm saying that people use religion as an excuse to blindly reject ideas that are proven effective based off of math, science, logical reasoning. It is kind of a tether to the past that provides some sense of security, but unfortunately hinders us from launching into the future.
Religion holds back progress?
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
That's okay. That's what I'm
There we go.
Okay. Great.
Not great. Terrible, actually.
But part of my goals is just to help get clarity
Sure.
on everyone's beliefs. Great. So we got 3. Any others?
Nah. Let's stop there and just move on to the next stage of the conversation.
Great.
Okay.
How would you rank these reasons in terms of good or better, best, or on a scale of 5, of like 1 to 5? If like
If I were writing a 5-paragraph essay and these were my 3 supporting points, which one would I lead with?
Sure. If whatever you lead with is the strongest, what is the ranking of strong to weak in terms
This
of
might be
reasons?
recency bias, but I certainly think it holds back progress, and that's probably number 1 reason.
Okay. How strong from 1 to 5 of a reason?
I would give that one a 5. 5 being very strong.
Okay. You can put 5 black blocks on the right side.
Neato. In addition to your 5 black blocks?
It's just
Yeah.
it's just that's how we keep track
Okay. Sorry, I got the wind here.
of how much we have.
All right. And then religion is not needed will probably be the weakest of my arguments, I would say, because that is more of an opinion.
Okay.
Well, I guess all of these are opinions, but it's hard for me to
Okay.
back that one up. You want me to put 5 here?
In here.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
neat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would say religion is not needed. I'll give that one a 2 or a 3.
Okay.
All
2
right.
or a 3.
2 white blocks.
Okay.
Religion is harmful. Oh yeah. Throw a 4 on there.
4.
4 greens.
4 greens.
All right.
Nice. Any reasons against this?
Well, I could be wrong.
Okay.
Well, I need to think of this. It's going to be harder for me to.
Mm-hmm.
So the question I should be asking is there a role for religion in modern day society? Yes, there must be a role for religion.
You have someone.
It provides us with a sense of optimism, and people draw strength from it.
Religion provides optimism.
Hope. Yeah.
Religion provides hope.
Hope, yeah. And hope certainly is necessary.
Okay. Wait, I need to put it on the other side. How strong of a reason is this?
Pretty weak in my mind, because there are other ways that you can draw hope.
Religion's not the sole source of hope.
No, it's just a very comfortable source of hope for many people. So I want me to do the block thing again?
Yeah.
All right. Does the color matter here? No? All right, well, you're getting a 1. That's what you get.
Those aren't magnetic. I have the magnetic versions.
Just
Want to do
kidding.
red? And that would be on the opposite side.
Oh, right. Wake up, kid. Religion
All right.
provides hope.
So have we mapped out what your thoughts are on
no,
this?
no. We could think of one other reason people were religious. Come on, I'm not quitting that easily.
Okay.
Do you want to help me out here, or am I doing all the thinking? You're just guiding the conversation?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't want to bias with the I don't bias your views with my
Killing me,
views.
Smalls. All right, fine. Why else would religion be needed? It's so hard for me to think of this. I hold this idea, this belief so strong in my head. Let's leave it at this. And hey, if you have one that you could add here, I know you're just trying to remain unbiased, but please just hook it up.
Hope, meaning, purpose, wisdom.
Yeah.
Any one of those.
I hope to God, LOL. I hope to God people don't derive purpose from religion. Oh.
It helps to meet psychological and social needs for people.
But there are other ways to achieve or to obtain what religion grants from a psychological and social perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think it's an unhealthy way to obtain, or to obtain those social and psychological needs.
What could you learn or find out to change your confidence? What would need to be true?
That is a great question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great leading question. It also forces me to be self-critical. I think it would be way harder for this side of the argument to be bolstered to the point where my mind is changed. But it would be much easier for this side of my logic to be broken down and therefore change my viewpoint.
Right. So if your strongest reason
comes toppling down,
then that would change your confidence.
game on.
Mm-hmm. So if you somehow learn that religion provides progress in some way, that would do it.
Yeah, that would take me from a here to a here. And then you'd break down one of the other ones too, and then I'll be like over here. And then I'll probably leave this conversation before the line crosses out of just sheer for protecting my ego and my identity.
Right. So, cool. I think we've gone for a while, like 40 minutes almost. And this is fun, though. I try to be here on Sundays. Do you come to the park often?
Do you come here often? I do come to the park. Yes.
Yeah, I try to be here on Sundays, and I like to... Well, I'm assuming we can wrap it up here, unless you want to keep going. Whatever you want.
I could wrap it up. I also could provide you with the opportunity to break down my strongest argument and prove me wrong. If you could effectively do that, then maybe I'll be more inclined to come back and have you break down the other two.
Sure, we can. I don't want this to be adversarial. I want us to work together to figure out how could we test that reason.
You have my support there. Great. Let's not make it adversarial.
So what would be a good way to test the relationship between religion and progress?
Can you provide some examples? Maybe I could choose from one. I'm lost there.
What would we need to observe to make us think religion either holds back progress or improves progress?
Okay, so I would need
some criteria to use potentially.
Sure. We would need to look at some sort of innovation directly tied to, I'm going to use the phrase the church. When I say the church, I mean every religious, I don't know what the word is. Institution, home, whatever that is. Cute dog. So I would need to find a modern day example of the church influencing the development of some sort of either breakthrough technology or new economic idea or mathematical concepts, something that will lead to our society advancing its capabilities.
Okay, so there's a relationship between innovation and progress.
Oh, yeah?
There's certain things that provide innovation, but religion is not one of those things. That's what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Is innovation the only thing that provides progress?
No. I think you can also look at progress in terms of just the way that people treat one another. There are definitely pockets of the world where this still happens today, but it was way more prevalent 200 years ago, where people mistreated one another because of their, the way they looked, where they came from, what their beliefs are. And then once again, irony. And if we could find a modern day example of religion breaking down those biases and encouraging people to truly love one another despite their differences, then I will move one block from the right hand bucket to the left hand bucket.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is some criteria of like love or tolerance?
Love and tolerance. And the thing that frustrates me is I know that, yeah, that's a podcast. Hi, how you doing? That's cute. You're so red. And what frustrates me is I know that I think I read some articles about like the Vatican and the Pope saying that we need to be more accepting of gays, as an example. And I know that the modern day Vatican is a little bit more modern, really, in its beliefs and its acceptance for others. But I just don't think that has trickled out to the broader faith. I still, unfortunately, see very religious pockets of the country, and just videos of churches where people are just spouting utter bullshit about how to treat one another, and it's just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wrong. So I think, yeah, you'd have to tackle this one.
Okay. So how could we tell if religion increases tolerance or decreases tolerance for like a group of people that like were not religious at one point, and then maybe became religious? What's a good way to test?
Well, you're going to run into a lot of testing error there, because I think one of the challenges with religion is it makes you tolerant for people who look and think just like you. You know, like if I am Christian and I move into a neighborhood, and I'm not shitting on Christians, it's just a very prevalent religion and just came to mind easily. But like if I am Christian and I move to a new neighborhood and I learn that my neighbor is Christian, I'm going to be like, I'm going to assume the best of you. You know, and it makes me very open-hearted and open-minded to somebody who is similar. Birds of the same feather flock together, which goes back to like callback to why I thought religion originally was, you know, invented, because we're a tribal people. We need to kind of come together as a society. But I don't think that if I were Christian and moved into a neighborhood that I would just I being like the general religious person would be as open-hearted and as open-minded to somebody who were Jewish or Muslim or something else than as I would be to my Christian neighbor. So I would need an example. So going back to this, there would be some testing bias, because I think it makes people a little bit more accepting within the bounds of their identity, but not accepting of other identities.
Mm-hmm.
And
that relates to tolerance of the in group or intolerance of the out group.
Yeah.
Yeah. How could we test if that's true?
I do not know. I do not know.
Cool. Anything potentially close to a testing process? A way of like checking that claim? Anything we could observe to increase our confidence about that or decrease it?
I don't know if this is directly related, but I'm wondering if we could like gather, if we could do like a script analysis of every single speech or sermon that was given. And kind of like, you know how you could run a movie script or just a company press release through like an AI and determine what the sentiment of it is, whether or not it's positive or negative or warming or whatever. If we can do that same thing for every single sermon that is given in every single church, once again, church being a proxy for all religious institutions across the globe, and see what the general sentiment is, that would certainly provide some data points for me to consider with respect to whether or not religion is encouraging acceptance or encouraging the opposite of that.
Okay, let's hypothetically say we could get that data next year. We could have all the sermons transcribed or just analyzed in some way. And what are we looking for from the sermons, and how would that relate to the level of tolerance of like the people listening to the sermons?
Well, there are two components to this, right? There is whether or not the sermons themselves are encouraging people or are encouraging in general of acceptance, and we could look at just like the theme of the sermon.
There's an assumption
in the language.
if the sermon is intolerant, we're assuming it would influence the people listening.
Correct, because the second aspect of this is how people then behave as a result of what they hear or what they learn from their religious institution. And that's where we run into all these different conflicting variables or conflating variables.
Yeah.
That'd be tough.
So so we can just measure the level of tolerance through some kind of analysis of the sermons.
Yes.
If they're more tolerant, that would potentially change that, or if they were less tolerant, it would be in support of that reason.
Correct. And then there's just the general theme, which is what we've been talking about, but then there's also the exact content. Like, are we seeing religious organizations or people using religion as their rationale to hold back progress? So just go back and use, like, once again, an example that we mentioned earlier on, Texas, making it damn near impossible for women to get an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you, Texas, number one. But number two, like, let's take a look at the advocates for those bills and the extent to which they used religious principles in their arguments as to why people should vote for that and be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good data point.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Lots of good stuff there. Love it. Cool. How do you think the conversation went?
Pretty well. I mean, it certainly evolved over time.
Mm-hmm.
I did not get a chance to answer my question that I had when I sat down, but that's okay. You know what? Like, this is pretty free flowing. This is a great day for it. I have nothing to do until 6 o'clock, so this is just a good time to explore.
Do you have more clarity on your position?
Not yet, but it certainly got my mind turning, and hopefully for anybody who watches this gets their mind turning.
Nice. Cool. I'd love to pick it up later on, maybe next week. Feel free to take a little squishy puzzle piece. Then you can come back and get another color and build out the whole set with it after a series of conversations.
Oh God, you got all the little gadgets. This is so cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna take one.
Cool.
I'm gonna go with blue.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate the conversation. Any questions for me?
How do you think the conversation went?
Great. I just got this toy like a couple weeks ago. I'm like still experimenting, playing with it, and I think it's interesting. It does help us get a sense of the weight of the reasons and the quality. I like it.
Huh.
And interesting topic for me. I like it.
I wonder the extent to which you apply what you learn and what you practice here to your own personal life and how you make decisions.
It's very similar. I do want to try to map out any reasons I have, get any assumptions clear, and I try to break my reasoning to see if I'm just rationalizing, see what would disconfirm whatever I think, what would need to be true.
Can I ask what you did for a living? Yes, do you hold a job outside of this?
No, I would have like a film, and then this. It's kind of related. I have a YouTube channel, and then I'm also a president of a nonprofit, Street Epistemology International, which is related to this.
Of course.
But that's my main job right now.
Well, that was a leading question. My bigger curiosity is to what extent did you use these principles just in the back of your mind prior to you making a concerted effort to practice this?
Not as much before. I started this and really thinking this way after 2016, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a continual development process, but I'm getting better over time.
Yeah. I'm sure it's like a muscle that you need to
It is.
train and develop.
It's like I really need to be out here and practice face to face to get the biggest improvement as well.
Neat.
That helps.
Well, thank you for your time. I'm sorry we didn't kind of get to as much meat in this conversation as you may have wanted, but
No problem. This is great.
nice.
Thank you, Kyle.
Sure.
Have a great day.
You too.
See you.
I'll help you clean up.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, let's reset. Wow.
Right?
So different.
I know. The world is just somehow all of a sudden less vibrant because I can't hear every single sound.
Any questions from the chat? There's only like 7 people watching.
Hello, 7 people.
Or where are people watching right now?
On my Facebook, YouTube, second channel, Periscope, and Twitch.
Oh, geez.
Hi, friends.
And these can go. I'll go back over here.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank
This
you.
is neat.
Thanks. Yeah, and feel free to look up Street Epistemology online. There's a website. You can learn how to do it yourself.
Cordial curiosity. Well named. Have a fantastic day.
You too. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Mind if I... You okay with this?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, take care.
Thanks. What up?
Hey.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Are more people going to come up if the chair's empty? More people will probably come up if the chair's empty.
I don't know about the pattern. It's usually the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Was he your first guest today?
he was. Just to let everyone know, this is Erik, another friend of mine here from LA. Introduce yourself to people somewhere.
Yeah, my name is Erik. I am. I don't even know what to bring up about myself. I guess I'm. My profession is I'm a psychotherapist, so I talk to people. They tell me things. I participate in the Los Angeles rationality community, and train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, that sort of makes me somewhere between like Joe Rogan and Peter Boghossian, but like far less famous.
Right.
Huh.
Cool. Yeah, and yeah, thanks for coming out. This is your first time here at Runyon Canyon, right?
Yeah, I come to
Not the
Where
park
was it?
itself, but just the meetup.
Griffith Park entry, and I've been to the meetup, yeah, at the pizza place.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is by far the best location, I think, to do it.
Are the blocks different weights?
They're the same weight.
Okay.
But, you know, add more, you get more weight.
Okay. They're each 1 unit.
Yeah. Yeah, Erik and I've been working on an interview for his blog.
Yeah. I'm like quickly assigning myself as Reid's official biographer.
Yeah, it's a deep interview.
Well, we're
Lots
making
to
it
talk about.
long, which is fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be of interest to everyone if you're actually watching Reid's Periscope, you'll be interested in the interview.
If you're watching, you might be interested in it.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I would
yeah.
assume. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be like, nice wonder, finally speaks. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Look who's asking the questions now. Yeah.
Let me put
That's
out the
right.
water.
You want water?
Oh, I got one. Yeah. Wait, where's your list of questions today? Is it over on the other side of the board?
I usually put them there. I need to put some.
Mm-hmm.
I made an Instagram post earlier this morning. I need to check the responses.
Okay.
But you don't have any claims up right now.
I know I need to add some.
Okay.
What are some good ones to add? It could
Go
be
over the master list.
it could be yes or no questions, or trying to get answers to what questions.
Abortions in the news, like your guest just said.
Oh yeah, should abortion be legal?
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a legitimate, nuanced question for me.
Yeah.
Depending on the stage of pregnancy.
Mm. Yeah, I think abortion should be legal up until like age 3, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add that. What limits should personal liberty have? Ivermectin.
Oh gosh, yeah. Have you followed that whole thing with ivermectin or no? I really haven't followed it very closely. I follow COVID updates closely, but not the ivermectin thing.
Not really closely, but
Have you actually listened to Brett Weinstein talk about it or no?
yeah, I think I watched his original streams about it,
Okay.
and
I've heard that's how people are familiar with it in part,
yeah,
but yeah.
free speech doesn't exist in USA anymore.
Free speech doesn't exist in USA anymore. US of A. Free speech does not exist in US of A anymore. Hmm.
Is left wing non-existent in the USA?
Is left wing non-existent?
No.
What is? Yeah, I don't get it. Huh.
So what? How can we convert ivermectin into a question? Is ivermectin effective? It's like treatment
Yeah,
or
is
prophylactic?
ivermectin an effective, I guess,
medicine?
or is ivermectin effective for
COVID.
treating or preventing COVID-19?
Yeah. Is ivermectin
I guess you could just say,
effective
is ivermectin effective for COVID-19?
for COVID-19?
And then people can interpret whether it means treating or preventing.
Need to replace my Sharpies. Meh.
No Dolly today?
No, he's been feeling stressed out.
Okay.
Just personal stuff, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I did come see you guys in Echo Park once.
Oh yeah.
Which has to be totally different now. And you are allowed to set up there right now, or no?
Yeah.
Okay. I also messaged Hunter and I said, oh, I'm going to Runyon Canyon to meet with Reid. He said, oh, I'd come, but I have a chess club.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't. I think he'd mentioned before that he's very into chess, but I haven't seen him play chess.
I like it. Yeah.
So these like sliders on the side help you like unbias the thing if it's
Yeah.
got like a bias.
In case that's messed up. Table.
Tree.
Do this periodically to save my headache later. Sinking, it's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Is it kind of level? It's not. Doesn't have to be exact.
Hmm. What else is something you can put on the board? You got ivermectin, abortion. Oh, was the election rigged? You gotta still ask that one.
I can't do that.
Do you hate talking about that one at this
No,
point?
it's just YouTube will definitely
Oh, really?
give me a content community warning strike or whatever.
Oh, that's crazy.
We've had issues with that. And ivermectin might trigger it as well, but
Ooh,
that's
I
fine.
bet it will. Oh, man.
Whatever.
So then you should just have free speech. That is the only one left to talk about. Should we still have the right to free speech? No. or is it too dangerous? It's like, I'll talk to you if you want to talk about guns. I'd have a conversation about guns right now. About,
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
We're also doing interviews if you're interested.
What?
We're also doing interviews today for our hobby YouTube channel.
What kind of interviews?
We have some topics there, or really anything you want to talk about. We ask questions to help people reflect and get clarity on their own views and help them
Should abortion
think about
be
it.
legal?
Any opinions?
I mean, I think that it should be legal 1,000%.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree.
You want to have a conversation with Erik about it?
Oh.
Me? I've got to do SE now?
You practice it. This is what the
We're
meetup's for.
actually about to go to a restaurant. We have a reservation, but
Oh, cool. No worries.
No worries.
thank you.
Some other time.
Take care.
Oh, well.
You're putting me on the spot to practice that.
Yeah, this is what the meetup's for. I usually, take turns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, partly I bring up the gun thing because I think my feelings were changed. My confidence on that was changed unreasonably based on like merely personal experience of being like, oh, guns are interesting and fun now that I like bought a gun. And then like I thought of I need to think more about like what would actually change my mind, because I've got these like vague arguments that feel a bit more like rationalizations than good reasons for holding my position about like whether the Second Amendment should apply to stuff like semi-automatic centerfire rifles and what were you doing? Because you were doing a new technique with like reasons and weights on those reasons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got, up to 5 reasons to talk about or to weight.
Mm-hmm.
And each reason, either red or green, pro or con, and have a weight.
Okay.
And then depending on how much weight someone has, we focus on that. How to test the claims in that reason.
Yeah. I think they were assuming that you'd sort of debate them about abortion.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
I think they were like, oh, that sounds intimidating. I think it's very important for it to be.
Yeah.
Should abortion be legal? I guess you've put it before with like, should the Second Amendment still exist or something, right? Is that the common discussion about guns?
Should the Second Amendment be repealed? Is that the word?
Repealed. Yeah. But then again, should the Second Amendment be repealed, or should restrictions on gun laws be repealed? I guess would be. They're not the identical. They're not the same question, but they're in which direction should we move? I actually, this is a silly theory. I was thinking this week, if I was a gun manufacturer, I'd want there to be a heated debate about whether or not firearms would remain legal. Because every time that debate makes it into the news, people go, oh, they might not be available next year, I should buy now. Yeah. So it always feels like this continual, I ought to buy now, I ought to buy now. It might be, I thought like that would be an excellent marketing campaign. Wouldn't that be an effective marketing campaign?
Yeah, that's a claim in and itself.
Yeah.
If there's like a conspiracy.
Are debates over gun laws, in fact, marketing campaigns for gun companies? I actually, I don't put a lot of credence into that belief either way. I think it's like
the primary cause of the debates.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a bunch of
I think there are other
factors.
causes. I think it's if anything, that is a small cause of those debates. But I think it's possible.
I'm sure it's non-zero.
Yeah. If I was manufacturing, well, then again, if you manufacture handguns in California, there's debate over, or actually I think in the near future, handguns in California will have to have what's called micro stamping on the firing pin, so that the firing pin imprints every bullet with a unique mark. So when casings are left on the ground, they have a unique mark from the gun that fired them, that then can be traced back to the buyer of that gun.
Oh.
And if you're buying something like a handgun now, you will be getting an unmicro-stamped handgun, supposedly. whereas in the future they will have to be that way. So is that incentivizing fools like me to buy your handguns now before they're microstamp?
Couldn't they put a GPS and like a fingerprint thing in every gun? Like you know where it was fired, and you know who fired it.
I mean, that could be part of the solution.
That would be tyrannical.
I mean, is the microstamp thing tyrannical? Like the consumer ends up having to pay a significantly higher price for the firearm that could have been built for a lower price. Same thing would happen with the GPS thing in a tracker.
Yeah.
Like all of the exceptions to rights are made under. I don't really understand a lot about how these legal arguments happen, but I understand that exceptions to rights are made under safety circumstances, like fire in a crowded theater being a famous example. But
hello, we're doing some interviews today. If you're interested, love your puppies. I still suck at like
getting people to sit down.
Mm-hmm. Busking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd make a terrible hobo.
Yeah.
There was like gosh, it's so sad when you see stuff like this where there's like a guy who's just totally like coming down from meth and like out of it and not in touch with reality in the middle, on one of those intersection, what do you call it, like lane dividers, where he's like clearly like trying to do the motions that you're supposed to do to get money from cars, where he's like literally like going like this and like walking down the lane, but like not making eye contact with any cars, no sign, just sort of like continually every time the cars stop he'd walk down and back up, sort of like an ape trying to recreate the ritual, like to open the box or something.
Yeah, like the tribe trying to create the planes out of twigs and sticks and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a cargo cult.
Cargo busk.
Busking cult. Yeah. Like, well, you walk back and down this lane, and eventually riches pour onto you, and just keep walking back. Every time the things stop walking down the lane, the riches come.
We have a guest.
Oh,
not just on here.
I'm gonna toss this.
Okay. Let's see. I'll do this. Jeff, what up? Can't hear you. Maybe that's probably
How's that?
me. Hang on.
No,
Oh, that's
I
better.
had my mic muted.
Cool. So hey, what's up?
Hey, did you get a chance to look at the one video I uploaded?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Great job.
Any constructive feedback?
I don't remember specifics. I think I remember the general vibe was good. You hit a lot of the main points, a lot of the main steps. The framing could be better. Were you using the microphones in that? I think so.
I took them with me, and it has to take the little mini, the new, the one that's kind of oval on both ends. You can flip it either way. I don't even know what the name of that is, but I had one cable which I did not bring with me. So I used my GoPro around my chest, as you saw, and I had my phone. I bought the tripod that you told me to buy that holds and I bought a new Samsung S21. So the video you're seeing is from my Samsung S21, and the audio is from my GoPro, and I just merged them together in Adobe Elements and synced it up. So I'm learning. I've had 4 or 5 different conversations out in public at this point. I've had a conversation with a couple of girls that said they believed in karma. They kept their masks on, and so the audio was not good enough to post. I had a good conversation with this woman who said she believed in astrology. She was a little difficult to have a conversation with because she was just kind of, I don't know, all over the place. But yeah, so I have plans to go back out again. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
I appreciate all your help, man. You really encouraged me, and I really appreciate that.
Sure thing. No problem. Yeah. This is Erik. You're hearing Jeff. This is
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's Jeff? Jeff, where are you?
I live in Somerville, South Carolina,
All right.
right outside of Charleston, about 20 miles outside Charleston.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's 6 o'clock here.
Hmm.
Nice.
I really enjoyed
Cool.
Reid. I watched the thing with you guys the other day, talking about whether or not we should have the intent of changing a person's opinion using street epistemology.
Yeah, persuasion.
Yeah. I found it very interesting. I'm still mulling over a lot of points on that. Good conversation.
Yeah, it's a nuanced topic and position. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I know I find myself definitely when I go into things wanting to persuade people to try to use critical thinking skills and what can I do to surface that. So I definitely land on the persuasion side.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But maybe I shouldn't. And that challenged me, which I found nice. I like to be challenged. I'm also trying to become a pescatarian.
Okay. Isn't that what you're kind of close to, or no? No. Never mind.
That's a loud airplane.
Yeah. Oh, you get real good. Like these mics hear better than the human ear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A lot better. You put on the headphones out here and suddenly you can hear like all these animals that you couldn't hear before. It's funny.
Yep.
Hmm.
Squirrels. Birds. Oh.
Here's a ranger.
Oh dear. Might get kicked out in a minute.
Oh yeah? Really?
Nope. They're responding to something else.
But you've seen them before, but right before getting kicked out.
No, it was actually the police. They're usually fine. The park rangers.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Cool. Thanks. We're just having some conversations with people, doing some interviews. Any topic you want, could be one of those if you have any opinions. We are open right now, waiting for people. Or any topic you want to talk about.
How did the ivermectin thing become anything?
How did it become anything?
Yeah, how did it become like a treatment?
Hard to
It's weird
say.
that people would be super against the vaccine, but then the ivermectin thing was popular for no reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like if people were worried about the vaccine, they have a secondary potential way to either mitigate or treat the vaccine or treat the disease.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would you want to talk about that or something? Something else?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. You want to do it?
If you want me to.
I do.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jeff, for hanging
Oh,
out.
should I come to your side?
Yeah, come to my side.
Okay.
And you can.
I'm Erik, by the way. Nice to meet you, Erik. Ryan.
Ryan, hey, come on, sit down.
Okay.
I'll tell you what it is we're doing. This is, you can put on the headphones there, and
Okay. Cool.
this is Reid's setup and his YouTube channel. If it's all right with you, this gets streamed live on like Periscope and Twitch and YouTube.
Sure.
But these are short conversations about things that people believe in, and generally it's called street epistemology. You'll sort of see that logo around here. And we have short conversations that help people examine, not like an argument about the belief, but I might ask you questions that gently push back against the belief and maybe help you determine why do I believe that, or get you to think more about how you come to that belief. So it's not like we'll put questions up around different like things that are in the news or different things that people talk about. A guy was here earlier talking about should we be religious in the modern world?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anything that you feel like you're like, oh, this is important to me, or I believe in this strongly, or I believe against this strongly, could be a topic of conversation for us. So
Sure. You know, one of the things that I hold an issue with is actually the issue of people buying properties around the United States and just all over the place, and just building massive portfolios of like 300, 500 properties and then renting them all out. And it just drives up the price, it feels, in my mind, for housing, drives up the pricing for rent, and just kind of makes it really difficult for a millennial or anybody younger to purchase a property if you're not already kind of on your way or ahead.
okay,
Yeah.
Remind me of your name again. I'm so sorry.
It's Ryan.
Ryan, Erik. And okay, so so we can talk about that. How would you, or we can talk about if you had something else come up, but we can stick with that for now if you like. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's try that one.
How would you describe that if you were going to like boil it down to a statement? Like, what is your actual belief that people, like, it should be illegal for people to buy properties to develop them, or I'm not sure I really understand what the belief
I think
is.
that there should be a limit on the amount of income properties you're able to have.
There should be a limit on the amount of income properties people should be allowed to have.
Individual people or owners or even corporations. There shouldn't be such a mass group of people just buying up all the properties that are available.
Mm-hmm. So there should be a limit on the number of income properties any individual or corporation is allowed to have.
Sure, yes.
And is there a way that we could test that belief? Like, is there a way we could know, like, the opposite? Like, let's say, and I'm not saying I have this information, but let's say there's some other state of the world or some other thing you could observe that would be true that would let you know there should be no limit on the number of income properties that any individual or corporation is allowed to have.
I guess that would be a difficult thing to imagine. I don't really know how that would look if there was just an unlimited resourced individual that could purchase all the properties, or individuals that could purchase all the properties, and everyone just had to rent from them.
Okay. So yeah, it sounds like if that was the state of the world, you're like, even if that was the state of the world, you'd still believe there should be a limit.
Right. Yeah.
But is there any state of the world you can imagine where, like, or anything that could be different about the world where it would change your belief? Because you're saying right now you do believe there should be a limit on the number of income properties any individual or corporation is allowed to have. But I don't know if there's something you could learn that would make you say, well, I guess now that I've learned this, or now that I saw this happen, I no longer believe that. And it's not that, like, that's true, and it's not that the belief is false, but I'm thinking, like, what would even let you know? How could we test this?
It's hard to say. I guess if it was something like a state-run organization that owned all the properties and allocated it out to the people.
Okay.
So it would be like, I guess, a dictatorship, communist dictatorship, where the state owned all the properties and allocated it out to various people.
So is it that you're saying if the state owned all the property, then you would believe there shouldn't be a limit on the amount of income properties any individual or corporation is allowed to have?
Well, I guess it wouldn't be an income property at that point, right? So if it was run by the state, unless they were running it for profit reasons, then there would be some key stakeholders, I guess.
Okay.
And those key stakeholders would, I guess, run it like an oligarchy. They would just have full control over all the properties. But I just can't imagine that would make a lot of sense for people that were stuck on the other side of that, renting for their lives. So.
Okay. So it sounds like I know you're hitting on something that's very true. It is hard to nail down, like, what would actually change our mind. It's usually easier for us to think about, like, what got me to that belief? Why do I believe that? But I think there is an interesting question to ask there, like, which is, the opposite of why do I believe it, and rather, what would let me know this is this belief is wrong. Like maybe it's an alien world where they have a limit on the number of income properties an individual or corporation is allowed to have, and things go really badly. Something like that. Or
Sure. I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess the issue would be maybe that the housing market would have some fluctuations or some issues with the properties neither no longer articulating further or growing in income, I guess, for people, individual owners, right? So their property value wouldn't grow over time if it wasn't for these income property purchasers. So you wouldn't see as much growth in your wealth if you were an individual owner compared to if there was only individual owners versus if there was income property owners driving up the price. That obviously brings some value and opportunity. So I guess for people in the housing market, maybe it's dependent on these income property users and buyers.
Okay.
And maybe there's some dependency on that, you know.
I guess it sounds like you're, tell me if I'm getting this wrong, but it sounds like you're interested in, like, I'm interested in something like I want the average person to be better off.
Yes, definitely.
I'm worried I put words in your mouth there, but like, is there some other reason why you believe this, where you're like, this is my underlying value around this belief, like I want people to be better off, or I believe it's just the right thing to do, or I believe it's like...
I feel that a lot of people in my age group, which is like late 20s, early 30s, are in a position where they don't really have a choice of where they can save up. Like it's almost like it's an insurmountable goal to be able to purchase a property here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't so much frustration around that, and and not only for that, but then you have to think of it all the way down to the amount of issues that we have with housing in California itself, you know, and the amount of homeless we have, of course, is an obvious one, but even for folks that are living in these tiny little apartments and just barely making it by, and will they ever get out of that? I don't think so.
Okay, so prices for the average person are too high to buy, and then there are too many homeless. So these are some of the things that have led you to that position. So I guess that gets me to something where I wonder if it would be possible that you could put a limit, and you'd wonder, would prices stay the same? Would they go up? Would they go down? Would there be more homeless? Would there be less homeless?
Yeah, I guess the question would be, who would purchase the homes if it weren't for these income property purchasers?
Yeah.
It would just be the average person that was buying it. And would that mean that more homes or less homes would be available because more people would be buying them? So maybe there's always some equilibrium that we come to, is that whether it's the income property buyers or the individual purchasers, the price will always matriculate higher. And so the question becomes, is there just a shortage in housing, or is it just an issue of, you know, that they're just creating a false demand? I think that's the part that I get frustrated, is that they're creating a false demand or a false price in my mind.
Okay. So part of it is you see it as, I'm worried about prices get too high, that people aren't able to buy housing in a way that would serve them. So I think there should be a limit on the number of income properties any individual or corporation is allowed to have. And part of the reason why you believe that is because you think it'll bring prices down.
I guess that would be a hope, would be that it would bring prices down, or it would stabilize prices.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be some massive rate of growth in terms of pricing and availability of houses. So,
you know, there's a whole technique to this process that Reid threw me into here, because he's spent so much time out here interviewing people. He's mastered this technique. But one thing I should have asked you at the beginning is, we've got these scales here. He's got all these little tricks around looking at how confident are you in this belief, and, you know, kind of asking around, like, what would change your mind? How'd you get to that? How would you get to another belief? But I guess one place we should have started is, how confident are you that there should be a limit on the number of income properties any individual or corporation should be allowed to have, where one end would be absolute certainty it's true, like that there should be a limit, and one is the absolute certainty that it's false, there should not be a limit.
Yeah.
If you had to use the scale to mark like how confident you are, how confident are you that there should be a limit on the number of income properties?
I would put it just under, I'd put it here, I guess.
And here I've really messed this up because we already started the conversation. We're like halfway into this, and I've got you marking confidence now rather than at the beginning. Is that the same as it would have been at the beginning, or are you hedging after even talking about it for a little bit? Noticing it can sometimes be hard to think about, like, how would I know that it's true or false?
I guess if it would have been the beginning, I probably could have put it somewhere around here.
What made it change? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's just wondering what would happen. That fear of the unknown. Of
Okay.
Actually logically thinking through what would happen if there was a limit on the amount of housing
Okay.
available. So I guess it would be hard for me to say how that, because I think it's just so common for everybody throughout time, and it's more common now for people to buy so many income properties and just constantly do it.
Yeah.
Versus maybe years and years ago when our families did it, it was one property, two properties versus 30 to 70 to 100, 150 properties. Now they have a whole corporation built around these properties, and it's so many property management companies and small businesses that are running these massive portfolios. And it just wasn't like that. I don't know that it was the same maybe 20, 30 years ago.
So that's one of the reasons then it hasn't always been this way, that there were large companies buying up properties. So I know I'm going to ask this question again, and I know we've talked about it a bit, but have you had any more thoughts around what could be different such that you would change your mind about your confidence in there should be a limit on a number of income properties any individual or corporation should be allowed to have?
Well, I guess if it served the greater good. So if it it served more people in a positive and meaningful way.
Okay.
Meaning they improved the properties or they made the living situation better than it currently is. So I guess private infrastructure investment versus requiring it from the state.
Okay.
So, if an individual buyer like me doesn't have the means, I have the means to buy the property, but I don't have the means to be able to improve it. So a way of improving or modernizing the property is to allow these corporations to improve them, purchase them, improve them, and then sell them. But that's part of what I say is that these improvements come at a cost. So and that always, whether I was able to purchase the property myself and not make improvements, or not purchase the property and not have access to the property because of the improvements.
Okay.
That's the paradox, I guess, where I always see
part of it you're worried about whether these properties will be improved or just held, and
well, even if they were improved, at the end of the day it's for the goal of being able to sell it at a higher price. So these improvements could be done privately by an individual or by a corporation, but the difference would be me making the improvements over time versus doing them all at once and then raising the price a lot more.
So whether people are actually getting to use them, and whether it's about like people getting that value out of it, having somewhere to live, or is it just being improved and then sold at a higher profit? Is it about turnover, or is it about people are better off for having gotten to use the house?
Yeah, is improving the property for the greater good in the long run? I guess is the question, right? So that would be my question about it.
Okay. I've got another one to ask you, because you came in and you said, well, maybe my confidence is closer to the middle. Maybe it would have started a little higher. But why isn't your confidence all the way at like complete certainty? How come you aren't higher on that scale?
I guess it's just more of a recent thought, and I haven't really gotten much thought into it.
Okay.
Up until recently, when I've really started to think about buying a house myself.
Okay. Oh,
So
okay.
It kind of got me really frustrated, and that frustration isn't fully peaked yet. I'm still on the side of, well, maybe I can still do it, versus I've given up full hope, and there needs to be a change in legislation, or there needs to be a change to the process and how things are done. And when I reach there, I think that's when I'm at the limit.
Yeah.
I really feel there's no hope for something like this.
Yeah.
No opportunity.
Yeah.
So
right now you're like, I can see that there's some room for me, but it's really difficult. I know it's difficult for other people in my generation. That's part of why I think this is one of the changes that would make it easier for people in my generation to buy homes, or people in general just to be able to own property, get the value out of living there and not have it held up at a really high price.
right. To
Okay.
just hoard wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Hoarding for some people, you may say, well, billions and billions of dollars. I mean, millionaires in many ways are still hoarding. If you have $500 million, it's not that you need to have that to live. And, maybe your future generations will be happier in your family, but it's still hoarding wealth. And if that comes at the expense of others not being able to own a house, I just can't see how that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So that's one of the reasons for is you feel like there should be a limit because I believe properties or wealth is being hoarded unfairly.
Mm-hmm.
So, Reid's been listening and he's got the headphones too, and I'm curious, Reid, is there something that you would ask at this point in the conversation, or how would you wind up this conversation? Because part of it is, my goal isn't necessarily to change your mind, it's more to look at like, how did you come to this belief? Why did you put the confidence that you did, and what would change that confidence to be either like greater or less confidence in that belief? So it's more about like, how do you think, how do you believe, rather than like what the particular belief is.
Right.
But is there something that you ask at this point in the conversation, Reid?
It's a moral claim.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the limit of property someone could have, and it's a particular example of private property of like housing.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's like a right. Everybody has a right to housing.
Okay.
It's like it should be a right to have housing.
yeah, there's
A right to have access to housing, at
if
least.
everyone can have an unlimited amount of housing, that
Um, so is there a way to test and see if that change, the law that you want to propose, would actually change things and get you where you want to go? Is there something that could let you know whether or not it would work or would be wrong?
I know that there's not exactly that situation happening in Canada currently, but there is a law that was just passed, I believe, that there's no foreign investment into Canada for property and housing. Actually, they just could put, I think it was like a 2-year ban or something like this, and that was come down from the state, and there's no, in my mind, no ulterior motives for doing that. But maybe there is, maybe that's what we find out, is that the state put this in place for ulterior motives, to gain more control and more power or something like this. Or maybe it was just because they recognized that there was a serious issue for new home buyers in Toronto and various large cities to buy property. They said, no more foreign investment. We cannot sustain this housing.
So is what happened in Canada pretty close to what you would want to have done?
I think it's close.
Okay.
I think it's a great first step for something like that. And I just can't imagine that the United States would buy into something like that right away.
Okay.
At least for now. I mean, I don't know how many years from now they will, or if they will, but I could imagine that it would happen, right? So one piece of legislation in a country that is generally deemed first world maybe leads to us taking that approach on too in the future. I think there's a lot of things that America's resistant to because of our capitalist ways and our wealth hoarding ways. And, I mean, that's why our country was founded, right? Because they didn't want to pay taxes. So, and then here we are. It's like, who's paying taxes, right? So I feel that that's probably a good example of what could be. And I remember when I heard it, I was really excited about it. And I think that's probably what started me on this topic. I think it was also something along the lines of feeling that there was, not that I have an issue with my landlord in general, but I felt that someone like this represents something I have an issue with, which is owning egregious amounts of property and living off tens of millions of dollars a month. For what purpose? It's just greed. Hoarding of wealth.
It ends up being something that comes across as greedy or just like hoarding or something that's kind of like it
just seems inappropriate. And I'm not saying that he's charging us egregious pricing or he's making things difficult. In fact, I would consider him a great landlord, and I would think that any landlord like that should have that right to own the properties. But for someone like that to continue to buy properties and continue to drive up prices by their actions, that to me seems morally wrong.
So I wanted to come back to the claim, and at this point in the conversation, ask how you're feeling about it. But originally, we've been talking about there should be a limit on the number of income properties any individual or corporation is allowed to have. And you put that level of confidence as where you probably started, and you had it like a little more towards the middle, like halfway into the conversation. Where would you say it is now?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I feel even just a little bit more confident at this point. I feel like I've got a little bit more steam going. And so, yeah, I do feel it's confident. I don't know how it would be enacted. I don't know the impact of it, but I think we've got a good case example that'll eventually show us that. So.
Well, let's leave it there for now then. And I don't know if Reid, you wanted to jump in at all, or whether you had any thoughts about how you're feeling after talking about it for a little bit. But I don't know. It's usually a little different way to have a conversation. What are your thoughts on this, or what it's like?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty great. I'm used to having a lot of conversations where people bring up their own personal points, and you bring up your points, and it's kind of like this back and forth. This is more open, where I was driving it, but you helped lead the conversation, but you didn't lead me to any conclusions on my own. I got to take my own conclusions.
The hope is that it's a little more like Socratic in that way, that it's around like asking questions that get you to think about it rather than me putting in what all my thoughts are about the subject.
Yes. I to be honest, I couldn't tell which way you could have swayed either way.
Yeah. If you had to put me on the scale there, where would you put me?
Right in the middle.
Okay,
Right
so
in
right
the
where
middle.
it's at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unbiased and maybe, I don't want to say uncaring, but you couldn't have swayed me either way based on your questions. So
That's interesting. Reid will have his own perspective about this, but I felt that during the conversation there were some questions I asked that made you much more critical of your position, and some questions I asked that made you state, like, because when I asked you a question that you struggled to answer, you said, well, it brought me back to the middle.
right.
And then when I asked you some questions and you said, well, I've got some steam going now, I'm reciting my reasons for it, you brought it closer to certainty. So I don't know if you noticed that happen, but I noticed that happen through the conversation.
I felt that you were reading a lot of what I had already said,
Mhm.
but maybe you put it a little bit neater, and so maybe that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's why I felt like you put a very nice summary around my thoughts.
So you were like, yeah, that is what I believe. You're goddamn right.
pulled it all, you wrapped it up and bowed it up for me, and I think that was great, but the questions about what would be the opposite, I really still have no idea. Maybe it would be something along the lines of, a state-run housing setup, and that I can't imagine that a state-run housing setup would work very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that was interesting, and I wasn't sure the right questions to ask to bring that around to the original claim, because it's difficult. I mean, part of it is, is it in theory? Is it in practice? Like, what is going to work? What isn't? And that's part of the questions around, like, well, how could we test it? How could he figure out and distinguish between theory, what I really want to get, which is for people to be better off, and practice, what happens when I do it. So that's part of why I think those tough questions are important. But yeah.
I'll have to think about that maybe a little bit further to
Okay.
see what that kind of world would look like. Another planet or something like that.
Another planet, another country, maybe another town, one that does what I wanted, one that did something that was just the opposite, and maybe sometimes those can give us an idea of, did it really work really well? Did it work really badly? Did I get what I wanted, or did I get the opposite?
Right.
So
Good.
anyway, thanks for chatting, Ryan.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Reid, did you want to jump in at all? Or the other thing is, since you've now sat down for a session of street epistemology, you can have one of those gears. So if you
right
feel
on.
the smushy, grab it, and you'll see it's like a stress ball sort of
Hey,
thing.
that's great.
And if you want, you can come back for another conversation, because he's here once every weekend, pretty much. And you can have another conversation, get another piece of the gear.
Great. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, good to meet you,
fun.
Ryan. Glad to talk about it.
Well, I'm so sorry. You're gonna have to do it again.
Eric.
Eric, that's right. I won't forget it.
I mean, I got
Eric.
to write down your name. It was easy for me.
Yeah.
After I asked the second time.
Hey, thanks, man. That was fun.
Yeah, good to chat.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you too.
And then, anyway, I could watch that potentially.
I'll have a clip on my second channel. One of your clips.
Okay.
Tonight or tomorrow.
Great. Sounds good.
Yeah, so it'll be up on YouTube, and you'll have to scroll in for,
Yeah.
like an hour 50 might pop up?
But apparently the stream went down like halfway. But
No.
But I'll have a higher quality version on my.
Oh, you'll re-upload it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great.
Sounds good.
Yeah, good to
Thanks,
chat
Eric.
with you, Ryan. Take
Yeah.
care.
Man.
Okay, so tell me, did you have any feedback for me?
Yeah, let me think. The claim is, should there be a limit on the number of income properties any individual or corporation is allowed to have? Should. It's a moral claim.
Yes.
And, I think.
I think the one thing I thought at first was I should have gotten the confidence right at the beginning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also didn't spend a lot of time building rapport.
Right, yeah, could have built more rapport. And then I think he went into disconfirmation question immediately.
Disconfirmation question immediately, which he struggled with, and immediately was like, oh, I would have put here, but now that you asked me the disconfirmation question, I struggled with it there.
Yeah. So.
Like, he was like, oh, way up here. And then it was like, when I struggled with the question, my belief was lower. And then when I talked about all my reasons for, my belief got way more confident. Which I was like, oh, I got him talking about his reasons for. And I was like, what did I do to get him talking so much about his reasons for?
Yeah, that's the usual thing we do is asking what are the main reasons that get you to that level of confidence once it's
Yeah.
there. Or we could start with what keeps you from being higher.
I did ask him that at
Yeah.
one point,
Mhm.
and he said, I did just come across this belief recently, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it, but like, and he got into sort of that's when he really got into why he came to even think about it in the first place, which got him like, because it's so difficult to buy property, like, because there's so many homeless, like, because things seem so unfair that people are hoarding, like that, like it just feels greedy and wrong, like, and he got into like almost disgust emotions where he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I should believe this because those people that own so much property are they're the hoarding people.
Yeah. I picked up a lot of moral foundations words of like
Yes.
unfair
Yep.
and something about oppression or something around there.
Yeah.
Hoarding.
Hoarding.
That's like cheating almost.
It's like cheating.
Cheating.
Yeah.
So those are values I want to focus on.
Hmm.
And it's a competing value of liberty.
Yeah. Which would you bring that up, and if so, how?
I don't know.
Because I mean, if you bring up liberty to him, he's saying, well, I'm only talking about the people who own lots of property. I'm not sure I mind denying them liberty.
Mhm.
Like, I'm only denying liberty to this small minority, the like hoarding capitalists who are making it harder for the rest of us.
Yeah, when I immediately heard this was the topic, and I'm like, this is a thing democratic socialists talk about. This is their pet issue of the tenants and housing.
Of course, yeah.
So I'm putting him in my model of like epistemic tribes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this is confirming my model, my hypothesis of him being in that tribe.
And then we got into some of the evidence that could be against, and would you even believe the evidence against your claim?
Yeah, and then he brought up something about a communist state, and I'm like, okay, that goes like that's other lines with my hypothesis. And talking about communism and socialism, and it's hard to like keep what I know about these ideas in mind and what the values are related to this topic, but it's hard to know what he knows about that and what he agrees with and disagrees with. Hello.
Hiya.
Hi. We're doing some interviews today if you're interested. Just chatting with people about whatever. It doesn't have to be those topics, but anything you want to talk about.
It's generally a conversation with people that is not a debate or an argument, but really getting people to talk about something they believe strongly and why they believe it and how they come to believe it and how they change their mind. And so it's sort of like a Socratic dialogue.
Yeah.
No worries.
No worries.
The water is still yours.
Yes. No problem.
Take care. Sorry if I'm speaking for you there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, just I want to ask questions. Potentially, maybe we don't focus on this question. We focus on something more broader within the ideology. Like, should private property rights even exist? Maybe.
Oh, okay. So you take the question, you're getting at values. Like his value was, I want people to be better off.
Yeah, that was great how you got to broader values.
But then I can also go, what's the competing value? Should people be able to own as much private property they want? Is that an issue of liberty? But also, I mean, that's the thing. It's an issue of liberty, but then who respects liberty for these capitalist scum? Where I'm like, okay, so then is it about liberty, which like, do I want to really defend capitalist scum liberty? Like, or do I want to make it about like, whether people are just like better off in the circumstance where people can buy and sell as much as they want, even big corporations doing whatever they want.
Yeah, I try to think of it as a scientific experiment, which is what the United States is, a kind of, with all the different states. You can have different laws and policies about housing and stuff. So it's like, if there was a state with a certain set of laws, A, another state B, another state C, there could be a spectrum of like extreme policies.
Mm-hmm.
Super libertarian state,
Yeah.
no limits whatsoever. And it doesn't, that doesn't come into it. Another super extreme. You can only have one property at
Mm-hmm.
all. That's all you get.
Everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one. Or like or just a bunch of mix in between. You can only have 5. You can only have 50. You can only have 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can only be a landlord for up to 10 people, or 100 people,
Yeah.
or 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then do people have good places to live there?
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm worried, okay, if I start throwing out those thought experiments, am I putting too much of myself or my ideas or my arguments into it? Am I going to make him feel like I'm always worried about making him feel like I'm arguing against him, where you stick to very neutral questions.
Yeah, it's ideally we want them to come up with a test themselves.
Yeah, I wanted to help him figure out his test for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Which he was like, is there really a test?
And if they struggle with that, you could offer some.
Which I
you started to. That was good. Yeah.
That's the thing. I wasn't sure that was good. But as soon as I even offered some, he was like, well.
And then you usually get stuff like, then I'd have to see an example.
Yeah. Could I really even trust those claims and how they'd see that?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so there I run into. I brought it up where I was like, okay, well then what if you were there yourself?
I think it's because you mentioned some specific country like Russia or China.
I know.
That was it.
That's where I done fucked up.
Yeah, that's where you fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So keep it as vague, as abstract as possible.
I was like, look, I know where people can't own property.
Yeah.
I was also so tempted to go into like rent control arguments, because this is a very similar argument to rent control.
Mm-hmm.
Like if prices are too high and we want people to be able to own property, why don't we just have rent control?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, you're going to get into the weeds on that one real quick too. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's loaded with moral language.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he didn't come away feeling any particular moral valence on me, which is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But he also just like got to talk about his reasons and just like reason. And I'm more confident than I was before.
Yeah.
If I recite my reasons for my argument, I'm more confident in the end. I'm like, yeah, that's right. That is why I believe that. Damn right. It's this is like you know how Bitcoin has a double spending problem and they had to solve that for Bitcoin to work? Have you ever heard about that?
No.
The idea with digital currency being like, I could have like a digital dollar, and like anytime Bitcoin was taking an account of that dollar, like it was taking account of that in the future. Did you spend it or not? So if I spent it in 2 places at once, well then in the future, I just got to spend my dollar twice.
Mm-hmm.
And in the future, like they have to deal with that problem that like one of these people has to say, wait, we both seem to have this dollar, but which one of us actually has it? Like I spent it twice. Like, so the double spending problem was a real big problem for Bitcoin. If I count the dollar twice all at once. And I feel like the human mind has it multiply counts arguments where I'm like, oh, that's right. I know that housing policy is bad because I had a hard time buying a house. And I think about that one time and I go, yeah, housing policy should be different.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm talking to a friend about it and they're like, no, I think housing policy should be the same, or maybe even in the other direction. And you go, but I feel this way because I had a hard time buying a house, and suddenly my confidence goes up. And I just counted that argument twice. And then I get in another argument with someone and they say, well, housing policy should be the same, or maybe even in the other direction. I go, but I had a hard time buying the house. And I feel a little more confident. So I keep counting the evidence that I already have.
Twice. Yeah.
And I just say, but I had a hard time buying a house. But I had a hard time buying a house. And I keep counting that evidence over and over. And I feel like that's what happens when we recite our arguments. We double count arguments, and it's like an epistemic error where I'm just like,
mm-hmm.
I had a hard time buying a house. Oh, well,
Yeah,
housing policy should be different.
That's why I like
time.
to
I don't know.
specify how much weight a reason has, and it stays at that weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can test how we got to that weight, or explore how the reasons why we weighted it that way.
Hmm.
But that's just an abstraction of an epistemic abstract process. Who knows how we're doing it psychologically in our brains?
Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to get these a little closer to a line. The abstraction of the argument in our own psychology. So I don't know how I would have done that differently. I'm just trying to get the question. Like you got a question and you stuck with it. Should we have stuck with that or made it more broad, more abstract?
I don't know if you heard me at the beginning where I was like, "Are you sure you want to talk about this?" This is a tough one.
Yeah.
This is gonna get it. This is a slippery knife edge where we will dive off into the weeds as soon as I ask the wrong question. But then again, so many of the things you talk about are. Yeah. That's the whole challenge of the thing.
Mm-hmm. Would I ask tangential questions? Should there be a limit on income at all?
Should there be a limit on?
Because this is like a proxy for that principle.
Yeah, yeah.
Should there be a maximum income in the United States?
If you're worried about people hoarding, should there just be a maximum income? I like one thing that I like that's more from the rationality community is trying to take because this has like a left moral valence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And going, okay, well, is there something that I would have from like a right moral valence where I would have like, if I'm thinking about this from like a broader, like a meta level where I'm really just about values, and there's something on the other political side of the aisle that's like a similar question, like, and I'm trying to think of like a right valence question where people would say like another answer from right valence around this, where it's like,
taxation is theft.
Yeah, should there be a limit on how much the government can tax any one individual? And you would go like, well, I don't know. Like, I mean, that's not a good example here because I feel like that's not quite the opposite. Usually it'll be things like, have I ever sent you Slate Star Codex's political spectrum quiz? Where like one of the questions is like, anti-abortion protesters want to march versus like a slut parade wants to march. Do you let each of these parades march, and asks you at different times, so you're trying to think about them independently. Well, would I let the anti-abortion protesters march? Would I let the slut parade people march? If I said yes to one and no to the other, it's really just about the object level question rather than the meta level value. Do I let people march for their whatever cause they like? And yeah, I'm trying to think of like what is the thing that's the same thing, being allowed to have like unlimited. Do you allow individuals or companies to have unlimited stuff? I mean, there are all these arguments that I wanted to have with them because I like arguments. But I was like, don't get in an argument with them. Oh, you want to give the state the capacity and the state's like not a company, and this is going to work how? Where it's like, no, that's not quite what he was saying. He didn't even want the state to be able to own property either. He was like, that would be bad too. But I want the state to maintain he did actually. Okay, right. He did talk about, we run into the same problem in China where there are like these oligarchs who are really protected by the state and they own all the property and nothing happens.
I heard that was just what would change his mind. If the state had all the housing, then it really wouldn't apply of like personal liberty.
He actually said both of those. And I didn't realize that until now. He said like, I don't see how that could go wrong. If the state owned all the property. And then he said, yeah, but in China, he sort of ran into but it's not real communism problem.
Yeah, I guess we want to get in a conversation of trade-offs.
Yeah.
What are the benefits and costs of this policy?
Well, his thing was like, if this was done correctly, there wouldn't necessarily be, he didn't believe there would be trade-offs. And I didn't have a way to highlight I didn't have a way to get him to name his own beliefs about what trade-offs would be present there. Like, I mean, without naming it.
Like, if the government owned all housing, there is no competition for housing. It's all top-down committee pricing.
Which at one point he was like, I think that would be okay, but the situation in China is not that. It's not just the government owning housing and giving it out equitably. It's the government owning housing and enriching a few people who are friends of the CCP.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but he's like, that's not really what I'm after. I'm after the actual fair state.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's working pretty well in Sweden and Norway or whatever it is, and Canada's trying to get there.
We could maybe make it more abstract. What causes price to change?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say, you dirty capitalist?
Has
I
property...
should have used the timer too.
Yeah.
Do you just draw it and then it starts, or do you have to?
Yeah, it starts.
Okay.
Yeah, if people want to use it, they can. It goes up to an hour.
Wait, how does it? I'm trying to figure out how the thing even works.
It just goes from...
Oh, I see.
It goes backwards.
No. But like how the little plastic thing gets pulled out, and like I had to figure out like, wait, where does the red thing come from? And now I understand the mechanism. Yeah. See, my claim is that the red thing is magic, and you can't explain that. Turn the dial, red thing appears.
Magic.
You can't explain that. Yeah. Tide goes in, tide goes out.
Yeah.
That's God. Wasn't that like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill O'Reilly? No, it was David
Silverman.
David Silverman and Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Tide goes in, tide goes out. You can't explain that.
And then the famous David Silverman reaction meme.
Yeah. When you pull the tissue, the next tissue pops up. You can't explain that. Let me grab another bottle of water while we're talking.
Sure. Let me table. Yeah, I do like the abstract mechanistic questions of if we're worried about price, what causes price to change?
Oh, okay. So you're worried about prices and how that affects the average person.
Yeah. Could Los Angeles prices of housing get so low that we would start to want to reverse our policy decision and allow people to have more property?
What if they got so low that a poor person bought up all the housing, raised all the prices, and then didn't let anyone have somewhere to live until they paid their higher prices, and then that person became, yeah. But his argument was, I have an idealized law that would prevent even that circumstance. And I think that this idealized law would work better.
Yeah, the law is a solution to the problem of people are just not satisfied with their housing situation in terms of the value they're getting from wherever they're living.
He was saying that he was saying a couple things. He was saying the prices are too high for an average person right now, which is just, you could just say that that's an argument against pricing. If I talked to him about his beliefs about pricing, he might have had something about supply, demand, and shortage. There's certainly a shortage in Los Angeles. There's a certain number of people who can have beachfront property, that's controlled by price. Mm-hmm. Not controlled by price, it's controlled by the physical space, but then who gets it is dictated by price.
The scarcity.
Mm-hmm. But his thing was that people hoarding the properties drive up prices for the average person, or most people. Most people are worse off as the result of people hoarding. My idealized law would prevent hoarding, therefore it is good to pass such an idealized law. Make it an actual law rather than an ideal.
Yeah, hoarding reduces competition because it's all really one person owning
Yeah.
everything. That's the principle. That's the assumption.
That was his assumption. His assumption was that there's essentially, I learned this term from a friend, oligopolies, few players controlling the market, rather than monopoly, which is like one player controlling the market.
Yeah, yeah. Does it relate to like populism versus elites? There's like the elite, high caste, you know.
He kind of had like, an anti-elite argument.
Yeah.
I mean, he believed his solution would. I kept trying to corral him into like, why don't you just test this claim by doing it and see if people are better off? And he was like, man, I'm
Has
not sure.
anyone done it in the past? How'd they go?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was like, but mine is the better solution, which is like, and I think it's probably something that's
Yeah.
been tried. It's in some form or another.
Yeah, so I guess this reason is a prediction rather than past data.
He's predicting, and I don't predicting off past data or off something that is completely idealized. But he was even saying, I'm not even sure I trust people making claims about past data.
Okay.
Right? When he was like, people use the Soviet Union and China, when I wisely brought those up, he was like, people use those as propaganda.
So what would be a fair test where we would trust the data?
Okay.
What would that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. What would a fair test be or what would a fair test be, or what would a fair example be if we weren't to use those examples?
Are there any of the fair examples in the past of this policy in place?
I was figuring he would say, well, Norway, or well, Sweden, or like these are good examples of it working, which is like kind of where the DSA goes when you go to DSA meetings.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Good. Cool. Yeah, sometimes we get lucky and people are just curious and want to sit down. There was one person who wanted to sit down when I first got here, but I guess he was busy. Yeah, yellow is the discussion question topic. Green is reasons for, red reasons against. White I use for definitions. Blue is like assumptions or extra premises. Yeah, it's whatever.
People don't even know they're sitting down to do school. I was like, it's so funny. I could have someone sitting down from me, across from me, to talk about like, yeah, I was raped and I feel terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm used to that.
Yeah, really.
I'm a therapist. But someone comes across to me and goes like, I believe in this value-laden claim, and I'm like, that's. Suddenly I get nervous.
Really?
Yeah, it's so different.
Yeah, what is the difference between SC and like psychotherapy?
I mean, if someone brings up that claim in therapy, like, I would be like, why are you bringing that up right now? How does that affect your life? And I'll be like, well, I'm the one who has to have housing. Like, I'm the one who has to deal with this shit. I go, so you're really frustrated that you have to deal with housing? And I'd like drop into the feelings and rather like, partly because like, I would love to argue with everyone.
Hi. Oh, okay. Anyway.
I love argument and rhetoric, and I would love to have these arguments.
Yeah.
But I'm so aware of how ineffective argument is.
Yeah. I know. It's so tempting. It's like theirs.
I know. Even at the end, where I was like, "Anything else you want to talk about before the end? Like, where would you put my confidence?" And he was like, "There." And I was like, "Okay, you could even ask me why it's there." And he's like, "Nah."
Yeah. Sometimes I ask, "Do you want to know my confidence?"
I know. It's so tempting because it's like, of course we want to share too. We're only human.
Yeah. It's fair to ask it.
Yeah.
At the end, if you want to ask me any questions, do you want to know my confidence? That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
It happens in therapy where someone will be making these value-laden claims and will bring up, oh yeah,
Hi. Any opinions on that? No.
Headphones in. Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
It happens in therapy where people make like value-laden claims. You're like, I want to bite on that so bad. I even in 2016 I had a client come into my office and they were talking about like volunteering for Bernie and how important it was to them, and they kept like throwing things out there. I mean, and part of it is I know that that's a human thing. I'm volunteering information about my politics. Are you going to volunteer information about yours? That's the unspoken process. And I just was like not saying anything. And I loved Bernie, and I liked Bernie at the time. I wanted him. I was a Bernie supporter in 2016 that I am no longer.
Same. Yeah.
And yeah, I still like Bernie. I just like I probably don't. At this point I changed my mind on whether I thought his policies would be effective. But yeah, they like did not come back because they were so upset.
They wanted the.
They were like, oh, you're clearly not a Bernie supporter if you're not voicing support.
Yeah.
I also was like, at the time, I was too stressed to do what you're supposed to do as a therapist, which is like, I notice you're bringing up a pretty politically laden question. And part of therapy is that this treatment's more about you and your emotional well-being. And really, I think it'd be best if I left my politics out of it, no matter whether I agreed with you or disagreed with you. So what do you think it's going to be like for you, given that you may come in here and you may never figure out my political opinion on stuff? And they have to talk about, well, what's that going to be like? I don't know. Would I really be able to see you if you're like a dirty Donald Trump supporter? How would I know? Oh, can you give me your confidence on his belief?
Yeah, was the claim. Should there be a limit on a number of income properties? No.
You're just like corporations and capitalism good.
No. That relates to like an income.
So you're
cap.
You're protecting the liberties of those dirty capitalist pigs.
Yeah, liberty and freedom matter more.
Okay. Even the liberty of those dirty capitalist pigs.
Yes.
But what if his claim was, but what if one person bought up all the property?
We have antitrust laws.
So, oh, come on. I thought you just said you liked liberty. Suddenly you want a trust bust?
Yeah. Because then it becomes the liberty of like everyone else.
Is that why it's not at the edge? Because you believe in trust busting?
Yeah. Then it becomes oppressive for everyone else.
Oh, so okay.
But it is a kind of like, there's no oppression. There's kind of oppression, but it's not to the level of oppression where there needs to be a limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. You can move.
You get a lot of confused looks over here.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, this is a weird thing.
Okay, so you feel highly confident that there should not be a limit on the number of properties any individual or corporation can own.
Yeah.
Unless one person owns them all.
Yeah.
So what about two people own? There's like someone owns half the properties in Los Angeles and another person owns half the properties. It's like perfectly checkerboarded. Would that be okay? There's competition.
That would be the limit. If it got down to two.
Hey there.
There can't be one. Anything just more than one. We're doing some interviews. If you're interested, we're open. If you feel like it. Any opinions on any of that or anything you want to talk about?
If I had more time, I would.
Cool.
No worries.
No worries. Puppy.
Oh man, that is a very handsome pupper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Doing some interviews today if you're interested.
Okay. guys.
Hi.
Hiya.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, now everyone's curious.
Yeah, now they're curious.
Sit down. Sit down.
Oh. Cool.
Oh, they asked the shirtless guy what that was.
Oh, really?
Cold curiosity. What's that? I don't know. Not really interested in finding out either.
I have a really good SEO score. If you
Wait.
if you search score of curiosity on Google, I'm like the entire page.
Oh, yeah.
So just go for it.
That actually, yeah, that's good. Yeah. If you search for Erik Anderson therapy, I think I'm like third.
Oh.
No.
No.
If you're actually Googling those terms, which is like, I did just register my business under a completely different name though. West Los Angeles Individual and Couples Therapy. West Los Angeles Individual and Marriage Therapy, Inc.
Inc. Okay.
I know.
Corporation.
I am now, as of like a couple weeks ago. I'm one of those dirty capitalists.
You could buy up a lot of, therapy real estate.
I could buy up a lot of other therapists and just say, you're not allowed to help people anymore. I control help.
Control the supply of therapists in Los Angeles.
Everyone just has to go to BetterHelp and get terrible advice.
Is that a service?
BetterHelp is a service where you get to call therapists on the phone and like do online text or call therapy.
Uh-huh.
And it's like really inexpensive. You pay like a monthly membership and meet with like a therapist for a certain number of times. They're trying to turn like, they're like trying to be the Uber of therapy, basically.
Uber of therapy.
Yeah. And like, I'll see all these posts on Reddit about like horror stories from like my therapist from BetterHelp. And part of it was like, I got like advertisements for a while where it was like, oh, come work for BetterHelp. And it was like paying me at a rate that was like a sixth of what I wanted to be making.
Oh, man.
So basically it got any therapist that like couldn't make money on their own or get a decent job, or like any therapist that lost a job due to ethical reasons would end up there.
Do you have to have a certain degree, or like you have to pass certain tests or anything to get to do that?
Yeah, I think they were looking for licensed therapists. But licensed therapists, then what they end up getting is licensed therapists who can't get better paying jobs, which are usually like licensed therapists who aren't very good at either marketing themselves or maintaining a job as a therapist, or got kicked out of jobs because they have a bad reputation. So it's like they end up with people
It's
who
the
are...
bottom of the barrel of therapy.
It is.
Okay.
That's how the price system works, friend.
Yeah, get what you pay for.
Sort of, yeah. Except in Los Angeles, yeah. The Los Angeles housing market is more complicated, to give him credit.
Because there's the reality of scarcity of physical space.
Scarcity of physical space. I mean, I think, again, there's scarcity of actual number of therapists. Like, there is a limited number of therapists. Limited number of good therapists. Unlimited number of bad therapists.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So the lessons I got from hearing you talk about what I could have done differently are that I could have dropped more into meta level questions, such as like, is it that like we want to, like, is this something about rights to property versus like, or rights to a service versus like questions of liberty for people who are like providing that service, which kind of gives me like a left-right valence question, which is like, okay, should we on like the right side valence might be like, because the left side valence is should these corporations be able to own as many properties as they do. Right side valence should be something like, should doctors be required to treat any population? Because, there are things like, can doctors claim a religious exemption from treating like women who want abortions, or like claim a religious exemption to, I don't know, is there something other like doctors treating LGBT people in Texas? I can't think of it. But like, I don't know, cake makers. Should cake makers have to make...
It's the cake.
The cake
big
argument.
yeah,
That's the
issue.
right valence thing. Should they have the liberty to deny people?
That's a good topic. The cake.
The cake one?
The cake topic.
Yeah.
How do we phrase that? Should all bakers bake cakes?
I mean, I don't know. Even the wording of the question, it's so easy to valence it. Like where you even ask, should bakers be required to bake cakes for any type of customer?
Mm-hmm.
That's not very valenced, but like if you asked it, should bakers be required to bake cakes for gay customers? Suddenly sounds right valenced.
Yeah,
Should bakers be required to bake cakes for white supremacists? Sounds like, oh yeah, obviously. Like, am I gonna make this Jewish baker bake a cake with a swastika on it?
Yeah.
Like, that's really ugly.
Yeah, what are the conflicting rights? It's the rights of the person providing a product or service versus the customer. And it's like anti-discrimination versus what's the other? It's like liberty of like
Anti-discrimination
It's like free
versus
speech or
liberty.
It's like freedom of conscience versus anti-discrimination.
Yeah. Like we reserve the right to refuse any customer any service for any reason.
Yeah, how does that possible with like anti-discrimination laws?
Well, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those signs do not apply if you're like, yeah, you're black, get out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, no, there are reasons you can't.
Did you see the interview where Jordan Peterson kind of got nailed on that one?
Yeah, with the comedian guy.
Yeah, and he actually asked him a good question. He's like, I don't know, that's actually a good idea. I guess that might change my mind. And it was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was really good of him. Like, good for you, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, okay, I keep getting us off the rails. I could have dropped into meta level questions around like, are we prioritizing provision of things versus liberties? Should there be a limit on things like how much people can earn? Should there be similar limits in other areas? So similar types of limits, so like sort of parallel questions.
Yeah, we call it probing the limits.
Probing the limits, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I shouldn't have brought up specific examples like China and Russia, and I should have asked him more about like, are there any countries where there have been laws like this, and have they been successful? But then I feel like I'm asking him, oh, give me the reasons that you do believe it, because if you go to a DSA meeting, you'll be like, oh, are there any countries where they've done experiments like this? Fuck yeah, there are. There's Nordic countries, like they're amazing. This is why. Like Venezuela, it's good except for other interference that happened that wasn't socialism.
Yeah, it's not terrible to ask for reasons, to get the reasons on the table, but we just want to make sure the reasons are good. Ideally, it's about improving the epistemology.
Yeah, I feel like, but I'm always worried about that thing I was talking about, the double counting problem, which is like, if I get you to talk about your reasons, like you started the confidence already counting those reasons, and then you're like, and then there's reason one. Oh yeah, reason one. And then there's reason two. Oh yeah, reason two. And it's like reason one and reason two are already why you were over there.
Yeah, which is why we try to frame it in like, what causes you to be at that level of confidence, and we're assuming the reasons are within this much. They're not over here. There's reasons against.
Okay.
It's like it pushes this way and pushes that way.
That's interesting. Like I get them to put it there, and then I say, why are you there? And I get them to think, well, those reasons got me there. Whereas with him, I was like, what would get you higher? And he started listing his reasons and putting it higher.
Yeah.
Well, what would get me higher are the things I already believe.
Another way to frame it is like, how could you pie chart out these reasons? What is the biggest reason? You know, what is the thing that most gives you the confidence? You know, and then try to weight each one. I guess the amount in the pie chart is the equivalent to the weighting. It usually starts to pick up with the sunset.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like flat until like 6 o'clock. And then it gets really busy up to 7. at 7, so I usually probably go till 5:30.
Mm-hmm. And then you kind of like browse the internet and wait for someone to pick up a bottle of water.
Yeah. And then just talk to them. Offer.
Oh, did you run out of water in there, or is there water in there right now?
Should be water in there.
I noticed the SE Discord isn't chatting about your day right now, or your live stream. Are they? I was looking in there, but I didn't see anything.
Usually, sometimes post a link to it.
Oh, have you ever read Aristotle's Physics?
No.
I started reading it. I'm doing a reading group with friends for Aristotle's Physics.
Let's go, boy.
Let's go, boy. And I was kind of surprised that in that book, he talks about counter arguments to claims that are still present today. Like he talks about like, okay, like, because in the beginning he's like, this is going to be a text that establishes like this, and this thing, and like there are people who argue the other thing, and he gives some examples. Hi there.
Hi. Doing some interviews today, if you're interested. Hello. Okay.
Take care. Yeah. Aristotle clarifies is like, I'm going to be talking about like whether he says in order to establish like something about the world and what it is, we have to have like starting points where we start and say like what is at the beginning of our way of like thinking about the world. And he tries to go about like what are these starting points, what could they be, and he gives some examples. He's like, some people say there's just one starting point, and he gives the examples of Parmenides and Melissus, who say like there's this whole Platonic dialogue called Parmenides, where Parmenides argues with Socrates about whether the universe is just like, what can you say about experience in the universe? Like, what is there? What's there? Like, is it broken up into matter and multiple things, or is it all just one thing? Like, it's just all we can say is that there is the one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's all we can say. That's it. There's just the one.
Mm.
And Parmenides keeps having this argument with Socrates, and Socrates kind of loses the argument. Where he's like, yeah, you keep dividing these things up, and I'm bad at recounting some of the Socratic arguments because they're hard to understand. They're like deductive arguments with these thought experiments, and he's like, yeah, but if you divide the thing up, like, can you really divide it? Was it then divided to begin with, or divided after you divided it? Like, and if it was divided to begin with, how did you then divide it? So no, there is no division. There is only the one. Like, and it's arguments like this for 100 pages.
Wow.
And yeah, Parmenides owns Socrates, and it's like the only time Socrates gets owned in a dialogue. It's great. You make a terrible face. You're like, Socrates doesn't get owned.
No.
Now you've got to read it. Spoiler alert: Socrates loses for the only time ever. Recorded loss on record.
I need to finish the Republic. I wrote like 3 of the 5 books or something.
Oh yeah, I listened to it on audiobook last year.
Cool.
Yeah, which was, as I was reading it, I was like, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah. Great questions. bad answers.
Like, yeah. And then like I go to my friend and I was like, his answers are fucking crazy. And he was like, what are you trying to say? I was like, I think like Plato's fucking out of his mind. And he was like, you idiot. Like, or Plato's trying to get you to think for yourself. How could you be so foolish? I was just like, no.
No, he's like making an instruction manual for the ideal city.
Yeah, he's making an instruction manual for like Nazi Germany, Plato.
I know. Hi.
Hey guys.
Sure, feel free.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing some interviews too, if anyone's interested.
What?
We're doing some interviews today too for our hobby YouTube channel.
Mhm.
If you want to have any topic you want discussed, anything you care about, anything you could give reasons for.
Well, what's your podcast?
Cordial Curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys like talk about?
Whatever.
You know,
Yeah.
I have a podcast too.
You have a podcast? Awesome.
I don't know. Are you around here often? Like, do you?
Usually Sundays, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'll take a card and check it out. That's cool. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah, it's like Philosopher Kings, Dictatorship of the Philosopher Kings.
Not only that, but how do you have you gotten to the part about the guards yet? Or the like soldiers, or I don't know how they're translated differently. Yeah. That was my favorite part, the eugenics argument.
Yeah.
Where it's just like Plato being like, or Plato playing as Socrates saying, well, of course you need eugenics. Otherwise, how are you going to have good guards?
Silly ancient Greeks.
Yeah, so Aristotle ends up arguing against Parmenides in the physics, where he's like, he's obviously wrong because you have one starting point, you get all these logical problems. And anyway, if he's talking about just one starting point, and starting point's another term for first principles, he's like, obviously, is he talking about substance? There's only one substance, or there's only one quality, or there's only one quantity of anything. And like, if it's any of these things, and here I was talking with a friend and he pointed out, or we discovered as we were talking about this, Aristotle actually introduces his own taxonomy where he's like, he's talking about there's only one thing, there's only the one. Is he mean substance, quantity, or quality? Because if it's only one substance, we'll know, obviously we can see there are different substances. If it's only one quantity of thing, we'll know we can obviously see there's more than one thing. And is it only one quality? We'll know things have different qualities because you can even arrange them in scale. So there's like more or less of a thing. So it's impossible. Like his argument is wrong, his assumptions are wrong, his premises are wrong, his argument's invalid, and his conclusions don't follow. He's an idiot. This is like Aristotle, who's probably like a super easily triggered, like like spurgy guy. And then he starts arguing about like, have you ever run into like a meditator or like a religious person who will say like, yeah, but like it's just, I'm not talking about like any particular thing. I'm talking about pure being. Like God is just pure being, rather than like, you know, sure, that cactus is like, you could say the cactus is there. The cactus became at one point. Now there is a cactus over there. I'm just talking about being itself, like the isness. God is just isness, being. And Aristotle argues against that like there can be anything that vague, like pure being, which I was surprised because I was like, that's something I've heard from like meditation teachers. Like, oh no, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about pure being. It's like, well, what's that?
Amazing.
So I was surprised to run into such modern problems being supposedly refuted by Aristotle. I mean, the style of argumentation is really difficult to follow, but it's all, it's good. It's really interesting. It's just, it's a difficult text.
Yeah.
And I was wondering like what translation to get, and I got a more recent translation, Sachs, that was translated in like 2018 or something, or it came out in 2017 or 2018. So I figured,
Okay, great.
more recent. It might be in more modern plain language. No, this guy did a terrible fucking job.
Oh shit.
So hard to understand.
No. I'll post the link again and see if anyone's interested in joining.
Do you sometimes do SE with people over your headphones or no?
No,
aren't
it's
here?
mostly just
Just people to observe.
just chatting. Hello. Oh no.
Oh, I parked in a 2-hour spot. Am I gonna get ticketed?
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Where's the 2-hour spot nearby?
There's like a street over there
Oh,
that
that
has a
one.
down at the bottom of the other entrance.
I'm not sure.
I saw there was a parking enforcer on the no parking without permit street, but I have no idea how strict they are about the 2 hours, and I realize I'm at 2.5 right now.
I don't know. No. Feel free to go check or just wrap it up here.
Yeah, how late are you staying till sunset?
Like another hour probably.
Okay. I think you may be more likely to get people on your own.
Yeah.
But
That's fine.
let me see. I'm also by a liquor store that I want to go to. K and L. Oh, there it is. 9-minute drive away. Oh, how late is it open though? It's open. Shoot, I do want to stay and see if anyone else drops by.
We can be more proactive. Just hang out near the
See,
cart.
I think you just need better signage.
Like what?
Like 5-minute interviews. 5-minute interviews more, like going up and down the path there.
Yeah, I need one of those A-frame signs.
Yes,
People can
sandwich
see.
boards.
Yeah, it's on my list to do.
How does Magna Bosco do it?
He actively initiates.
He's more verbal, like, "Hey, you want to have a conversation?"
Yeah.
He doesn't use. He has signage though too, right?
Not really.
Hmm.
He just has a GoPro on his chest and I'm holding a whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's either doing a survey or something.
You need a call to action. Come sit down for a 5-minute interview.
Yeah, I've got free and open inquiry here.
That's not a call to
that's
action
not a
though.
call to action.
No. Yeah, your marketing needs some work.
Yeah.
Jeez, how many iPhones do you have? Oh wait, that's not iPhone. That's a hard drive. Oh, okay. The GoPro has its own. This is just a battery. It's not a hard drive. How do you get reception good enough? You don't get good enough reception to stream.
Park rangers coming.
Gonna get booted.
Act casual. No, not by them. Usually, if they stop.
I think you're getting nailed right now.
Oh my god. Shit.
Maybe not.
Socrates, you get out of this marketplace.
Yeah.
Get out of the marketplace. Corrupting you.
Oh no. Yeah, it's not good. Hello.
How you guys doing today?
Great.
All right.
How are you?
Good. What's going on?
Just hanging out in the park
Okay.
for my hobby.
Cordial curiosity?
Yep.
What's that all about?
It's my personal hobby YouTube channel. I like to chat with people if they're willing to have a conversation with me.
Is this for any profit?
No.
What I would recommend, since you're advertising something,
Yeah.
I'd recommend probably next time you might want to try to get a permit. I can give you the film office where you get that.
Cool.
Because you're kind of like advertising something. That's the reason why I came up here to talk to you.
Cool, cool.
Give you the number.
Sure, I can take it down. Okay.
The number is area code 323
Okay.
644
Okay.
66. Turn that back. 2050. 644 2050.
2050. The film office. Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good day.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Okay.
See, you got free at the beginning of everything, though.
It's all free. It's free.
Free water, free inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
It's all free.
Mm-hmm.
Free epistemology. Who would want that?
Yeah.
Officer, have you ever heard of Socrates? You're looking at him. Or as you might say, Socrates.
Socrates.
Yeah. Cordial curiosity. What's this cordial curiosity? Wait, are you fucking with us by not being Sir, I don't know if you're fucking with us. Have you contacted that office before?
Yeah, it's super expensive.
Sure, I'll take that number.
Yeah.
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 But like, you don't even need permission if you're not selling something, right? You're not creating a product to be sold.
Yeah, no.
But you're thinking about eventually making a film about SE?
Yeah, maybe eventually.
See, there you are, breaking the rules.
My rules are the Constitution.
Oh, yeah. My rules are this damn Constitution. It's so bad. Oh, jeez.
Well, so anyways, I have like.
Here's the rules I abide by right here. And you hand them a Constitution. It's like, sir, this has nothing to do with local law. This has to do with how we set the law and what laws we're not allowed to set.
Yeah.
Like, you're damn right. What laws you're not allowed to set on me.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like multi-thousands of dollars a day to film in the park?
It's like $500.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it would be more than that. Because it's like in the middle of Hollywood.
Yeah.
People ask all the time, probably. Yeah, if you had to pay $500 every time you come out here, that'd be awful.
Yeah.
For the rationalist meetups, we used to meet in this like mall hallway where there were these couches. for years.
Yeah.
And then they closed that part of the hallway, and we started meeting in this place nearby that was just a little bar outside of a movie theater.
Oh yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And now that place is no more, or is like not friendly because of COVID. And so now we started meeting in this rental office that Robert's paying $90 for every time we meet.
Wow.
But he's just cool with paying that. So it's like, I was
Okay.
like, you should have a treasury and we pay membership. And,
Yeah.
you can cover the cost, but he's like, I'll cover the cost.
Okay.
But, we haven't been meeting in person since Delta hit. We like stopped when Delta got bigger.
Oh.
I think we're starting again in October for Slate Sarcotics Everywhere meetups.
Right.
We might get some new people sometimes show up because of that.
Sweet. Hey, is you good? Going well?
Sorry?
Someone in the chat.
That, you have a different emoji for me? What did you say?
It's just like a different
logo?
set of emojis.
That's a very smug emoji. You don't see it as smug?
It is
Like where it's like, really? You think divine command is a good way to get at moral reasoning?
This one seems
Yeah, this one has a curved up mouth. That one's more like, interesting. Interesting you could be so foolish. Okay, I'm gonna go get my car. I hope I haven't been I'll talk to you on Tuesday, I guess. Later, man.
much of the. I need 2 more topics.
setup?
Thank you. Yeah, just go for here, here, and a 361.
Okay.
That takes up so much hard drive space.
Right.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
Okay. And you edit your own stuff too?
Yeah.
Premiere?
Final Cut?
Final Cut? Oh wow, you still use Final Cut.
The new one, yeah.
The new one?
Yeah.
Right. That works.
And I'm also streaming to YouTube, Twitch,
Oh,
Facebook.
nice. So you just like interview or talk to or like random people or just like?
Yep.
Okay.
Just anybody who's interested.
So, yeah, we gotta take off. So
cool.
So maybe some other time.
Yep.
Okay, so on that subject again. So yes, I am and I feel like I'm bad. Yeah, like I'm not like good at being like reaching out and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. So I guess it's part of my. No, I guess I don't. I guess I like sometimes I don't. I feel like in a social situation, I am social. Like at a party or something going on, like I am social. Who are you? It's hard to trust people. It's because also like not just certain people, friendships is like people like I have my best friend now and I feel like guys are really fake people all the time. Kinda, right? Is that
But and I just wanted to catch my breath before I started getting in that thing.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, like with my ex, all his friends, that was cool. Like your friends were so sweet. They're like you would call them like really good friends. Like never considered them like best friends. But yeah, like when they were they're like they're not even your friends, but they were so fake. They were so fake. Because they would literally talk shit behind each other's back. Like all of them. Like it's just like I always heard about the drama between all of them. It's like talking shit, and the next thing you see them talking, hanging out with the person you're just telling shit about. It's just like, oh, yeah. But that is crazy. That has not really happened. But one of his friends did kind of like after we broke up, they kind of like one of his friends was kind of accusing his girl of like being interested in my ex. I don't know. That was because I was cool with her. Yeah, I don't know about that. No, I'm really. picking bass like the bass guitar. No, it's not. Oh my God, no, but I'm right though. About the guitar. Yeah, I'm right. Okay. I'm sort of right. No. Okay. Big Five, Sporting Goods, REI. Yes. Well, for this context, yeah, it does. Okay. Yeah, it does. And I'm cool. Because I need that too, but I also don't want to read them. Think I'm using it that way. But yeah, no, I'm okay. I just don't know right now, right? Obviously more than that, but yeah. I definitely. Well, you know.
Because he's been dealing with this. He fucking ceased to exist 4 years ago. That's how long since been fucking at this level. You know? He was like, dude, you can't do that.
That kind of makes sense. Like, I don't know, exactly. I was gonna say, like, the guy's not gonna be jealous of you. Another. Okay. My dad. Gosh. Sorry, I do not like being told what to do.
You don't?
No. Who does? Oh, that's good water.
Water? We actually just got some, bro. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you.
Yo, yo. You know what I mean? Did you eat yet? And then sometimes she's not like that. Sometimes she's the exact opposite. Oh, right. Sorry. I forgot. You know, she's who she is. And, you know, that's all. I don't know what the problem is, and I can't really fix it for her. I'm not her therapist, and I'm not there to fix it for her. I'm just not. She is going to have to figure this out for herself. But what I'm not going to do, and I don't know if I'm breaking up. Am I breaking up? Yeah. Did I lose you? Hello? There you go.
like heal.
And I outdid all of them, is what I'm saying. Fuck out of here. It's fun. It's fun.
And even if you eat really well, even people who eat in a very healthy way, always do it in moderation. Like, restriction is literally probably the most biggest setup for failure with dieting, in my opinion. I mean, there's so much. Like, yeah, no, but even also in moderation.
just that, like basic stuff, and then let it move.
We're in the mood for it. If we go this way, we have a steep climb. And then we're at the peak. If we go that way, it's a little less steep. And then we can coast, come over to the peak, get to the highest point, and then run down that way. I think my body can handle pretty much anything if it doesn't have the traction. Pretty much. That's how it goes.
Bella. Bella, come here.
Yeah, right, always. What are you doing?
Hey, no, sorry. It's been a while, but what do you mean? Like, what are some things? I'm really big on this today.
What's this about?
Yeah, what is? Oh, it's today's topics.
Yeah, it's my hobby YouTube channel. I'm trying to practice a way of having conversations.
Interesting.
I do think astrology is true.
All right.
Abortion should be legal. I can't see.
Is it
Ivermectin.
ivermectin?
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, what is that?
It's another potential treatment to COVID people were talking about, but it's controversial.
And I do think the U.S. is systemically racist.
Cool, all right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to chat about any of those if you're willing. I can set a timer. Or
How long did you?
However long you want.
Okay,
Come on, boy.
Do it.
I'll do the astrology one.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Hello.
Did you just finish a hike?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
like all tired. Am I sitting too close to this? Okay. I can take my backpack off. That's why I'm sitting next to it.
Do you want me to hold it?
Sure.
I've got extra headphones over there if you want to listen in.
Oh yes, sure.
Do I have to? Oh, okay, yeah. Hello. Yes, Brandee. D-E-E. Hello. Yeah, sure.
Frankie. Yeah. I can.
Ooh. I think were we just talking about this on the way up?
We were a little bit.
Yeah, like
We were
very
talking-
briefly. Yeah, very briefly. This is so interesting.
I know this is.
She like walked past. She's like, "What is that?"
I was curious. Cordial curiosity.
Yeah. So I used to come like really often. She's visiting.
It's my
LA.
first time.
This is her first time. Oh, sorry.
Not first time visiting LA.
No, I've been to LA a couple times, but first time to this park. It was beautiful. Yeah, the weather's perfect. We sat up the top for a little bit.
Yeah, it was so nice.
Yeah.
Do you want to do like I don't know, minutes or something? I don't know. I'm not like. Okay.
What is astrology?
So I think like when people talk about like astrology, like I always hear like negative things about it. They're like, oh, it's not real because like there's like no like scientific like backing behind it. Like really, people are like, oh, like you can't prove it, but like I kind of think it's like you can't prove like religion a lot of the time. So I kind of think it's just like another belief system, and it's just like whether or not you believe in it. Like I do, I find like a lot of the things to be true. I think people have to use astrology as like another tool to like go about life, just like how people use like religion and like go about life and they, they talk to God or like whatever higher power they believe in. I think with astrology, like it's just a tool to be like, okay, like if your zodiac, like we were talking about her zodiac sign, so she's a Cancer, I'm like, okay, so you look at not specifically just like Cancer traits, but like you can do your entire birth chart, and I just think like it's a tool to get to know you more as a person, and then kind of like go about life and figure things out. Like, okay, like my north node is this, so I'm here for this reason, or like my south node is this, I'm here to like figure out this, and like this is in a past life. So I just think it's a tool that should be used. Like I don't really believe in like like Geminis or this, like those little like what are they like on social media where they have like Geminis are like two-faced. Like I don't think that like it typically means that I think Geminis can have like a dual personality, but it's not like a negative thing. I just think they have like a lot of energy. So kind of look at it. Yeah. 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 I mean, I think you can get like a few personality traits, like some people say with Leos are like very conceited and into themselves. Like I have met some Leos that are like that, but I also think it's just like they have self-confidence. Like so I don't think it's like a negative thing. So some things can be true about it, but for the most part, I don't think it should be used as like to be like, okay, well, Geminis are two-faced, Leos are like self-indulgent people or whatever. Like I think like you just gotta like know that like every good thing has like a bad thing. You gotta know how to like separate it. Yeah. I would say absolutely yes. Like you can ask some people like how true, like how much do you believe in God, or like how much do you believe in religion, and they will give you a confident yes. And that's how I feel about astrology. Like yes, it's very true. It's you want me to move it? Okay, there we go. Absolutely true. I think it's just it's just something like whether or not you believe it. Like I don't think it should be forced on everyone. And like if you believe in it, great. If you don't, go about your day. Yeah. I mean, for me, I feel like it's beneficial. Like I literally I'll do like my birth chart. I'll do like I've gotten into like numerology and like tarot cards, and like I feel like it's very helpful. Like it's not like I keep saying it's more of a tool. Like it's not something that you have to like look at as like some people say like it's like devil worshiping. Like if you don't use it that way, then it's not. don't know. For me, I like it. I say it's true. I mean, I think it's important to believe in true things, but also I think you should put your faith in things that can be like 50-50 because like not everything is going to be like solid here for you to like touch and like. So I think like you just have to. It's different for every person. Like you have to just know yourself and know what's going to benefit you. I don't think so. Like, I mean, I don't think so because it's like, okay, like I believe in a grade, and like, someone one day randomly proves that it's not accurate. That didn't change my life in any way. Like those past years, it wasn't like, wow, I wasted so much time. No, that's what it was. That was the time I was in my life. I think for me, it's just like better insight of like knowing who I am as a person and like knowing different, like using different tools and being able to like know, okay, I'm gonna work on this. This is what I'm here for. These are the things that like happened in past life. I think it just explains a lot for me, and I think it's beneficial. I think just like spending a lot of time with yourself alone. A lot of people are so afraid to be alone, and we were just like having a really long conversation about how independent, like just I think just like being by yourself, spending time alone, and just being okay with that. Like some people aren't okay with that, and I think once you become okay with being alone, you can be really fine with building relationships with people because you don't have to have that attachment of like, oh, will they leave? If they leave, what am I going to do? Like you've already spent so much time alone that you know, okay, if this person leaves, I'm going to be okay. So I think spending time by yourself and being able to build by yourself is just a good way to get to know yourself. Yeah. Oh yeah. Do you?
Me? Oh,
No, I'm. What? Like, what's your time limit?
No time. Go ahead.
Okay, let's do
Yeah.
like a couple more minutes then.
Yeah. No rush.
That astrology is absolutely true. I feel like there's not a specific reason because everyone is different. For me, I just feel like whenever I've like looked into like astrology or like doing like my entire birth chart and stuff, I've seen things happen and like I've seen me figure out things because I have like used this as a tool in my life to be like, okay, this and this is how I need to go about, for example, like something in my career. This is how I need to go about it, and then it works out. So I feel like, okay, like I could have sat here and struggled and not really understood what it was about, but since I use this as a tool, I was able to go about and like change these things in my life and actually get to where I need to be. But I feel like it's different for every person. Like some people may not use astrology in their career and maybe only in like their personal life. Like so, I feel like it's different for every person. Astrology helped me. Let me think. Let's see. So for me, I use it for like my career. I mean, I use it for like my entire life, but like for career wise, I have always been like a very like, I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I don't want to sit at anybody's like desk, and I tried it and it just didn't work out. And then I remember one day reading in my birth chart and like looking at the house that is basically like about your career or whatever, and it made a lot of sense because it's like you kind of need to be in like a creative field, and you need to like you don't like you to sum it up is like you need to be in a creative field, no 9 to 5s, like you need to be able to kind of have freedom and independence. And as soon as I started doing that, like literally like my whole life turned around. And I was like, okay, like this makes more sense. Like I'm actually like, so I just used it as a tool. I was like, okay, makes sense. I'm doing this now. I can actually like work and have fun and enjoy it versus like when I tried to work a 9 to 5, I was miserable. Like I was getting bills paid, I was making the money, I was doing what I needed to do, I was being an adult, but I was miserable. Yeah, so you can do your entire birth chart. All you need is the location you're born, so like city and state, or if you're like born out the country, obviously like however your country and all that stuff or whatever. But city and state, and then time, and then the day you were born. Do your entire birth chart. And then it'll give you like the big three are going to be your moon, rising, and sun sign. Wow, I blanked on that. Moon, rising, and sun. Your sun sign is like your overall personality. Like that's a sign that you hear. So if I ask you right now, like, what's your sign? It's probably that's going to be the sign that most people tell you.
So very specific time, place that you're born.
Yeah.
And that in relationship to celestial objects.
Yeah. So the time that you were born, all the planets and everything were obviously like aligned in like a specific place. So it's going to tell you like, okay, your Venus was in, my Venus is in Gemini. So your Venus is in Gemini, your Mars is in Sun. So like your sun sign is in, Cancer, whatever your sign may be, it's going to tell you where everything was. And then from that is where you get like all your traits and your background and stuff. I know it's like confusing. So for me, I'm not like huge, like I'm into astrology, but like I'm not how some people are like very, they can like tell you about it for hours. For me, I just think of it like when you were born, you, like this is what the planets and what everything were doing when you were born. There's no way you did not absorb any of that energy. Like, so the energy that like the universe was putting out at the time, I feel like when you were born and you came into this world, there's no way you didn't absorb that energy. So at the time, that's the energy that was absorbed. That's kind of how your life's gonna. But I also things are also not set in stone, and the future's always changing. So
the planets have a certain energy, and it affects people depending on where they are and when they're born.
yeah, I mean for me, that's how I look at it. Other people could give you a different. Yeah. No, when you're born, like so, there's like that specific time when you're born, and that's gonna give you your. That's why you need the time when you were born because it's gonna give you your entire birth chart. For example, like. I feel like it's just like so until you're born, the universe can't give you energy because they don't know where the planets are going to be, what's going to be going on until you're born. So you can't just be like, oh, like like I was in my. I don't think so. I mean, I personally I could be wrong. I don't know, but I just feel like you can't absorb an energy that isn't meant for you. So if you're, if you're hanging out of your mom's stomach or whatever, and it's not your time yet, I don't see why the universe would be like, okay, here's energy for you, and it's not even time for you to come into this world. I still feel like they'd be different because so if it was this, yeah, so like your sun sign is the main sign, so that's the sign that goes so like there's 12 of them, so like it goes like Capricorn through like late December to January, and then there's Aquarius, Pisces, like all that stuff. So those are the signs that are like, those don't change every hour, every minute. Those are signs that change every few weeks. I have no idea. I could not answer that question for you. I mean, possibly. Yeah. I mean, for me, I feel like there is. Someone else could tell you differently. I feel like, like I keep saying, astrology is a belief system. Someone that's, Christian could be like, oh, yeah, well, this is. Someone who's Christian may have tattoos, but apparently in the Bible it says, it's a sin to mark your body. But some people say, like, oh, it's okay. Other people are like, it's not okay. You shouldn't do it. So I feel like with astrology, it's kind of the same thing. Like, if the planets are rearranged, maybe you get a different energy. I can't say for sure. I think you should believe in things that are disbelief systems, but sometimes it doesn't work for people. Like they don't want to believe in things that are disbelief systems, and they need solid evidence, which is totally fine. Like whatever makes you a good human, believe in what makes you a good human. Like that's my logic.
That's the principle. Believe in whatever makes you a good human.
Yeah, that's my.
Is that the highest virtue?
Yeah, I think like some people can be. Yeah, some people can be good humans, and they don't need any belief system. They just are just like, my morals are like what I know right from wrong. This is what needs to be done. This is this. Some people need a belief system to like stay on, track. Personally, for me, if astrology wasn't around, I don't think I would be a bad person. I just, like I said, I use astrology as a tool. Some people need really strong belief systems. So like, whatever makes you a good person, believe in it.
Supersede the truth potentially.
Wait, rephrase. Let me say that again.
Like what astrology can do for people with benefits, that might be something. Supersede the truth.
Oh yeah. I think like if I'm answering the question correctly, I think that believing in something, like the benefits that you get from it, should be like enough for you to like have like believe in it. Like if you're getting benefits from something, like you should believe in it. But like I guess if you don't want to, you don't have to.
What if they're false? Or you're just mistaken? The source of
I think like I don't think that matters. I feel like if you're believing in astrology and you think the benefits are coming from astrology, but like I don't know, say it's coming from Christianity or whatever. I think as long as you feel like you're doing a good thing and you feel like the benefits are coming from it and you are receiving or like, putting good things out into the universe, I don't think it really matters where it's coming from. I wouldn't be, because I would only be curious if the thing that I was doing to get the benefits was a bad thing. Like if me believing in astrology is getting me benefits, but the real source is, I don't know, like Christianity, I wouldn't care that, okay, like the real source is because my mom's a Christian and she prays for me every night and that's why I'm benefiting from it. Like, but in my eyes, it looks like astrology, I wouldn't care because me believing in astrology doesn't affect her Christianity. It would be bad if I was believing in astrology and I was getting the benefits, but it was hurting someone negatively, then you'd be like, okay, like maybe that, shouldn't be. But as long as it's not affecting anyone. Okay, well, I think we can end it in like a few seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything we could learn to find out to change your confidence? Is what we need to make sure we need to stop getting benefits, or just religion to see something? What could be
I think the only thing I feel like I could or would learn that would change whether or not I believe in it was if someone could give me hard factual evidence that it was 100% bad, and it was just like putting bad energy into the universe, negative things are happening because of it. Then yeah, I probably would switch up the belief system, but I don't. Like, what would it about like if I stopped believing in astrology? I think so. What would be the specific thing that I learned, or what if I stopped believing in astrology? There's nothing like specifically. I just feel like someone would have to just give me hard evidence that it puts out negative energy. I have no idea. Like if someone could provide me with some sort of hard evidence, but like I have yet to come to that. I've seen like people having like biased opinions about it, but that's not factual evidence. Like I've seen people have biased opinions about like numerology and like angel numbers and like all kinds of stuff, but like that's not factual. That's just someone's experience. So until someone can be like, this is solid hard truth about like astrology is negative.
Because I can really sweet. Like, he's a good guy. Like, just helped me through a lot.
Yeah. So.
No, we were totally.
But I don't feel like
I don't
there
remember that.
is any.
But
So,
like,
if someone could,
I was
provide it
gone.
to me, I'm all,
So like,
all
yeah, I
ears.
knew that. But then after my parents like sent me to like.
What's your zodiac? If you don't mind telling me. You don't have to tell me. I'm just curious. Some people don't share it. It's not like a thing to not believe it. Oh, okay. I'll take the. Oh.
Sweep the puzzle.
Put the puzzle together. Lovely. I was like, you're going to push your chair in.
Good combo. Thank you.
Thank you.
What is it?
It's a squishy, like, it's like a little.
Let's see. Oh.
Like a stress ball.
Street.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Oh, do you put this on like YouTube or something?
I do. I'll probably put a clip online on
Okay.
my second channel.
Okay.
Okay, so it's called Cordial Curiosity. We can find Brandee on it. Cool. Thank you.
I hate listening to myself.
Thanks everyone for watching.